Did you have a good weekend?
Great weekend. We had NASCAR to watch, so I was good with that.
There
The
you
weather
go.
was good. The weather was great. It was awful warm during the day.
And now it's
obviously.
humid today, and I want to get away from it.
Humid.
I just want to say the joy of my weekend, and Kevin, I texted you about this. Yesterday, I'm on my way home from church. I turn on WHS. Bust a Move's on. And I'm thinking, I never thought I'd have the day when I turn on WHS and Bust a Move's playing. I tell you what, folks, if you want to find the most eclectic music and it will meet all of your needs, make sure you tune in WHS, man. My kids went insane when they heard that.
Well, here's what's funny also, Rob. So what Calvin does, he sits in there and he goes year by year, and he'll take the top 40 hits, and that's what he puts in. So one of our other interns, and he doesn't know a ton of these songs.
Right.
We have 4 different versions of Stairway to Heaven in the system. I don't even know more than one, but I do know that our intern said I've put 4 different ones in there, and none of the first 3 weren't Led Zeppelin that he put in.
That's hilarious.
so with the beach music folks, what they do a lot of, they do remakes and add some beach flair to it. So that's what a lot of that ends up getting turned into, is the older music gets turned into beach music remakes, and you can. It's a wonder you didn't hear a Bust a Move remake from one of the beach bands. To tell you the truth, is how bad he is with that. But yeah, you can hear anything and everything.
I love it.
Love it on KTC, country music, of course, WCSL 1590, and on the rest.
Got
of
a
them,
comment already?
Oldies and more.
Good morning from Michigan. Gets its afternoon. Roger Emmons says, yeah, you guys are a little bit behind us there. Was about an hour was Michigan? About an hour behind us? Hour and a half?
I think so.
Because I've been to Utah, and that's 2 hours, so it's not quite that far
It just
west.
depends. I mean, Chris Weber didn't know what a timeout was, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, time's a little skewed up there.
Yeah, time's a little
believe
different
so.
in Michigan.
Well,
so.
they obviously, they need to know what the time zone is.
And North Carolina loves that he didn't know what
That's
time
right.
it was.
They need to know what time it is in Boone.
Yeah.
is what they need to know in Michigan. What time it is? That's all they need to know. Right?
Yikes. But thank you, Roger, for tuning in. And I guess good morning to you then.
It's just
no, it's
it
no, I know.
would
It's
still be afternoon.
It's still an afternoon.
I would still say good afternoon.
Yeah.
Hunter's gonna catch up.
I'm answering him.
You're still. Are you still in whatever mode you were in from Saturday? You struggling?
No, I'm not. Not today.
Okay, so you're doing good.
I'm doing a lot better today.
Yes, Michigan is on the Central Time Zone for you.
There we go.
Okay. The time zone's actually, I'm trying to think. It's I'd have to look at it. It's weird the way it goes. It moves around. But anyway, we've got a list of things to go over today. The NBA returns. 22 teams. We talked a little bit about that this past week. What to look forward to. We'll get into more of that. MLB has a 76-game proposal between the owners and the players. We'll see how that comes out. PGA returns this weekend to the Colonial. So the PGA is getting ready to kick back up and play. I always thought that was one of the sports that could get going without the fans. And, the players don't make contact. So really the only people touching anything that the other guys touch, I would say, would be the caddies touching the flags. And
You can wear gloves.
and that, yeah.
There you
So
go.
the caddies could easily
It's
wear,
fixed.
the gloves or whatever. Well, the new rule, in golf, is you can leave the flag sticks in now. So some of the guys might not
Don't
even
need to touch it.
Might not just
true.
leave that joker in there. I would guess there's a lot of, at the local courses level, a lot of leaving it in the flag. That might even be a rule at some courses. I haven't been to them all, but that could be a rule. Just leave the flags in during the coronavirus. So we've got Sunday. I didn't know if you guys have noticed Sunday night coming up. There's a new documentary on Espen McGuire.
I know
and
what.
Sosa.
Yep.
Is coming up Sunday, so I want to get some thoughts from Rob on some of those days. He'll remember those. I think Hunter wasn't even born yet, so we can talk a little
I'll
bit
just
about
sit here and twiddle.
of what happened during that season and those years. And then I got a couple of things with Rob to go over. So first of all, let's introduce Rob to our fans. And what we like to do, Robbie, is go over your favorite teams and things like that. So let's start with basically, let's go over the teams that you pull for. Basketball, baseball, football, whatever, anything and everything. I'm going to go with the ones that I know. I know you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan.
Yes, sir.
Fly Eagles Fly finally got you a championship that was 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a little bit. And I know you're a Duke Blue Devils fan.
Yes, sir.
I got the Duke shirt right behind you,
I
Rob.
appreciate
for your
that.
friends.
That's
Friends don't let friends go to Duke.
That's very kind.
The only bad thing about that shirt is they misspelled Duke. It's D-O-O-K. Let's see. And then I believe you're an Atlanta Braves fan.
Yes.
And so that leaves NBA. Do you have an NBA team, a NASCAR, or any other sports, like tennis or hockey or anything else like that you pull forward? Rob, we get a little bit.
I struggle with the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Even having the Charlotte team, I'm just never been a big fan. I guess I would pull for the local team.
Mm-hmm.
NBA wise, it's all about matchups. I enjoy watching matchups, who's playing who, things like that. Hockey wise, I love the Philadelphia Flyers. Kind of the same vibe with the Eagles, going back to the Legion of Doom and that Edge City. And it was interesting. My son actually started doing some looking back at our family history, and my family originally come from Germantown, Pennsylvania, which is right in the heart of Philadelphia. So I don't know if it's something that's inborn into you because you come from that area or
You're
what
getting
it is.
called
but
back home.
That's right, exactly.
Has anyone in your family ever booed Santa Claus?
I'd say that's possible. I would say it's absolutely possible.
That's the question.
I'm wondering, my kids may have had at some point because of disappointment, but
the dad,
the
boo.
the pony wasn't there. So what do you expect to happen? So on the NASCAR front, with Dale Jr. retiring, I was a big senior fan, and when his passing, I know like a lot of people, you kind of left the sport, kind of getting back into it a little bit more now, but kind of similar NBA wise. Really don't have a driver, just like seeing the competition, things like that. So I would say those are the big things. And then, I'm such a fan of local sports here in our area. That takes up the majority of my focus, sports-wise and enjoyment, things like that. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Have you been to a Charlotte Knights game since they've moved to Charlotte?
Yes.
I have not. So nice field, stadium, and everything.
Very nice.
It is. I mean, you
can't go this year though, Kevin.
and the thing is, you can tell.
true.
I know you can't.
The design is there for a possible MLB team one day.
Mm-hmm.
I think the way they did it was, I don't give the city leaders and people a lot of credit for this stuff, but having been to both Atlanta and St. Louis's baseball stadiums, the way they put them in such a small space, the way I believe that they did the BB&T Park is that they could actually, because if you remember back with Sosa and them, they were building tons of seats, and even at Turner Field in the upper deck, and they haven't sold those lately.
Right.
So the way I think they built it is that they could build up and keep the field there, and then you
Absolutely.
could just tear down whatever. If it's a new team comes in there, they'll be like, well, we'll keep the bottom level and we'll just build up however we want. You'd probably have to knock out maybe one of those streets there and close it down, and just close that one street down altogether to make it bigger. But I think you've been inside of. You think they got a big enough room to expand back out?
I think that was their plan when they designed it. Was originally because they knew they were a part of the few teams that are looking, or the few cities that are being selected for possible expansion team. They were like, well, if we get it, instead of us building a completely new stadium, we could just add on to this one. It keeps them right, still next door to the Panthers. It's almost like, just like that's almost like a little sports area.
Yeah. But the key there, guys, if you're Major League Baseball, they have to be an American League team. I think it would be insane to put a team in Charlotte and put them against the Braves.
It wouldn't work.
I think to me, it would almost force the team in Charlotte to fail.
Well, Rob,
because you're not going to see many leave the Braves.
No. Could you see then them moving Tampa Bay to Charlotte, since they're having such a hard time pulling fans and just keeping them in the American League? You could literally keep the Rays as the name. Just call them the Charlotte Rays.
Yeah,
that's exactly what you could do.
Yeah, I think absolutely that could happen.
Surely they wouldn't do that if they're going to keep the Rays as there's no damn.
We have the
Stingrays in
Carolina
Charlotte.
Beach. I mean, we have the Carolina Beach, though. I mean,
Well,
we have
Maybe
a
we
beach.
can go back to some of those old ones like they did for the Hornets. Maybe they can be the Charlotte Spirit.
Be the Cougars or Flight. Or something.
And we're revamp the Charlotte Bobcats.
It's just
Maybe
so-
they'll be more successful.
Hey, yeah, well, go ahead, do that.
Why
But
not?
are there any cats in? Well, there's the Tigers. I suppose. Are there
Is
any
it?
cats in
That's it, though.
There's no lines. And
Not in professional baseball.
there's no lines in basketball. It's a weird one.
I've told you what they've needed to do when they come to, like, renaming. New Orleans should be the Jazz, so take that name from them. Give the Jazz the old Bobcats name, or Utah the old Bobcats name, and then you can just go away with the New Orleans, the Pelicans. You can get rid of the Pelicans.
Here's what I would do, guys. It's summertime. You get a baseball team in Charlotte.
They love that Pelicans.
You
name.
call them
Yeah, I don't know why.
the Carolina Yard Sales. If there's anything that speaks to this area in summertime, the Carolina Yard Sales.
I see them end up being a snake name, a Cobras or Copperheads.
Wouldn't it be cool, though, if somehow they got Michael Jordan involved and called him, like, the Charlotte Flight?
That would be great.
That'd be really cool.
Here's a name that I've never figured out why in this area it's not used more. And I know we have there's the soccer team up north that uses the Revolution, but for this area with the
DC.
history, for the history of this area and what it did during the Revolutionary War,
no,
I
New England.
think the Charlotte Revolution. Yeah, to me, it sounds kind of soccery. I guess is that a term, a soccery kind of name? But to me, for this area, would be very appropriate to use that kind of name.
I think you could almost pull in using the name. You could use the Jets name and just just literally have like a fighter jet as like because somehow the city of Charlotte, we're known really for two things: banks. We're big with the banks on the East Coast, and Charlotte Douglas is one of the busiest airports on the East Coast. And
I tell you what, if you come up with some kind of money thing, and then you have a night where you're hitting a bunch of home runs, and the PA guy comes on and says, "It's raining dollar bills, y'all." I mean, it's a possibility.
Someone needs to give us some calls. We've got some great ideas for Charlotte. If you get a Major League Baseball team, it's in the works.
I'm just trying to think of.
Do you think Charlotte
names.
Gets one?
I think they eventually.
Do you think they do?
Eventually will.
Because we got the soccer team coming. So
it's
I don't know when.
It's too big. It's too big of a market. There's a lot of baseball teams and football teams that Charlotte's bigger than, and I think
it's crazy to think.
It's just a matter of relocation or addition.
I was in broadcasting school about 4 or 5 years ago, and they were talking about how Charlotte wasn't quite a top 15 market yet, and in 4 or 5 years, it's already creeped into the top 15 for markets. So it's crazy. I mean, just how fast Charlotte is growing, and they're really pushing for more infrastructure, more public transportation, because they want to, that we've held the Democratic National Convention. We were going to hold the Republican National Convention. They want to host Super Bowls. They know the World Cup is coming to the Americas, in North America, between Canada, United States, and Mexico. We already host international games in Charlotte. Why would they want to probably host one of the FIFA games?
I tell you, an event that I think will be here one day, and it's a big one, and it sounds crazy, but I think WrestleMania comes to Charlotte one day.
They'll do it, and they'll have Ric Flair come out.
But there you go.
They're running out of time.
They are running out of time.
getting a little late for that one. Man, isn't there a reason? I don't know. Isn't there a reason, Rob? If Smoke was here, he could tell me for sure. There's a reason that WWE they had a rift with Charlotte at some point or something.
Yeah, there was a little something that happened way back when.
I can't remember what it was.
We all know Vince is not one to hold a grudge.
No, not at all. For some reason, I'm thinking it was the city, or there was something that went on. Dang it!
I think now though, if you go back, I think if they would approached again, I think those things could be put to bed. I believe.
That's a tough one, though.
I'm still trying to think of nicknames that I like. One nickname I do like that nobody ever uses is Dragons. Why do we never have any dragons? All the sports. You could have.
Yeah, I don't even think UAB, whose logo is a dragon. They don't even call themselves the Dragons.
Wasn't Barcelona?
They're the Blazers.
Yeah, they're the Blazers, but it's a dragon.
Wasn't Barcelona? I think
Dragons.
The last Dragons in the old.
And you see Crest over here with
Crest Middle.
Crest Middle's the
Crest
dragon.
Middle's got their dragons.
Before they obviously expanded or got away with the XFL, there was Seattle. That was the Dragons. That was what they were trying to pull.
I was just thinking about some of these teams. Like we did the onomatopoeia one time, and I went through the cities. One of them was can't remember which city it was, but I like the Rhinos for teams, or hippos, or any of these. People make fun of hippos. They actually kill more humans than I think any animal.
They're the most dangerous land mammal on the planet.
is a hippo. There's not many there's no gators in pro sports or Crocs. It seems to me that they missed a lot of the pro sports.
They see the names lions, tigers, and bears and just want to run with it.
And then that guy says, "Oh my," and that's
that's it.
That's what they do.
Yeah, it's good. It's good television for him just to go. It's the lions versus the tigers, or the lions versus the bears. Oh my!
Let's be honest, guys. You are so worried today that your name is going to offend.
Oh yeah.
That you are.
Well, it's definitely got to be an animal.
Yeah, see it. I mean, it's basically that's
so you're
where
confined.
we're at now.
You're confined.
Is basically
it's
animal
either
choice.
It has to be an animal or I mean, you could probably get away with the knights. You could probably get away with something mythological, like for God's sakes, there's a team called the Damn Wizards. It's my team, but
this Charlotte Steel. Little baseball.
I could see them doing the Charlotte Sting just as much. I know that. Isn't the Charlotte Sting the women's team?
The women's basketball.
Yeah, but I could see I could see them trying to stick with some sort of. Because what is it? The Greensboro Swarm, the Charlotte Sting,
for a
the
baseball
Charlotte
team,
Hornets.
The best name is the Bats.
There you go.
Charlotte Bats.
Charlotte Bats.
Imagine that. You can have
the Bats.
You can have Batman
either
and Robin Knight.
You got a choice. You're either the Charlotte Bats or the Charlotte Balls. Which would you rather be?
I'm going to be the bat. I'm going to be out there swinging a big bat.
I was talking to Andre earlier about that South Korean team with the dinosaur.
Yeah, it's what, the dinos or something like that?
They're called the NC Dinos.
I like that.
Their mascot,
here's the thing, though.
He's a brute. Have you seen him, Rob?
Yeah, but here's the question.
Rob, you seen that guy?
I've not seen
hold on,
when they bring eventually, because we've sat here and said we think they're going to bring a Major League Baseball team here, do they do the whole one Carolina thing and go with the name Carolina, or do they do Charlotte like the Hornets are?
Now you get two different taxpayer bases by naming it one Carolina. Yeah. That's what they'll do.
That's exactly what they'll do.
Yeah, but they only but you know exactly what'll happen. They'll say that, but only take tax money from the North Carolina people because they're in Charlotte.
No, that's true.
That's exactly what'll happen. It's the same thing with the Panthers. It's the exact same thing with the Panthers. So then you gotta think of it like this.
They call him Swole Daddy.
That is great.
Look at him. The NC Dinos. Why would you not want?
What's so crazy is the name's practically already there. We just call ourselves the North Carolina Dinos or the Carolina Dinos. There you go.
Why wouldn't you just, Hunter? Would you try to keep the name the Knights? Nobody else is named the Knights.
I perfectly have no problem with the name Knights. I like the Knights.
That would probably be a deal between whoever owns the Knights.
The AAA team.
Yeah, that's that deal. But just trying to.
Well, then keep it in the family. I know they're not going to be a feeder team, but
Homer the Dragon is the Knights, or used to be the Knights' mascot.
I think he still is.
Do they still
have
him
the Dragon? I don't know if his name's Homer.
It used to be Homer the Dragon.
Here's something I thought about, guys. What are the because now you're getting. I know with the Braves, you're trying to get your AAA team close by, so then that way you can do changes.
Because they got Rome, Gwinnett, everybody's just right there.
This stadium over in Gastonia.
For the Grizzlies,
it's going to be amazing.
Should be. They can move the Knights over there.
I was about to say if you end
Homer
up with
is still with the Knights.
Okay, that is his name. So, I was going to say I recognize.
Hey, Charlotte Dragons, and you name them Charlotte Dragons, and you buy the rights to Homer.
I don't see why not.
What do you think? You like it?
I was gonna say if you want to keep it in the line, like you can still have the Knights somehow get them to become an affiliate to leave the Chicago White Sox. I guess you just buy them out or however that works, and then just call yourself the Charlotte Kings or the Carolina Kings. The Knights are serving the Kings. There you go. But what were you saying about Gastonia
I think with that stadium, and like I said, it's impressive as you watch it go up. Can Gastonia end up becoming, if you're able to pull this off with a major league team in Charlotte, can the AAA affiliate end up in Gastonia where they're right down the road?
They're not far.
It'd be the what the Braves situation has going on, with Gwinnett and the Braves.
You could either say it would either be Gastonia or somehow, some way they're going to push it out to Concord.
Right.
That would be probably the two closer and ideal places. Or they just look at it and say, if we're trying to get this one Carolina unity,
go to
they put it in Greenville or Rock Hill.
Where the Drive play.
Greenville, either Greenville, Rock Hill, Fort Mill, that area.
Right.
Just somewhere that's close. I mean, Spartanburg, whatever. Something that's just right down the road. But could they do that? Yeah. Will they? They probably will, because that stadium in Charlotte is meant.
And-
It is meant for a major league team.
And we got to realize too, we are talking about Major League Baseball, who cannot get out of its own way. So we talk, because I know we're talking about the schedule that they've offered up now to the players again, a shortened schedule, pay cut. Here's the thing: baseball better start thinking about. You're not alone this year when you start back.
No, I've been saying that forever.
To me, they're
fighting tooth and nail for viewership.
And I'm gonna tell you what, guys, the hockey playoffs are going to be incredible this year. It's going to be good.
To it.
Of course, we know what basketball is going to bring to the table. So now and football is always king. It's always has something going on. So now eyes are being turned a lot of different directions. Major League Baseball better be careful. They're asking for a lot of trouble if they can't work out their differences and get something to the fans.
Well, here's the thing: if you were baseball right now, I'd do everything to get started in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, while basketball is still getting everything worked out and is going to start later. Because when basketball starts up, I told Tom this, and he was like, "Oh, how could you say that?" I'll be honest. Sure, they're going to play 8 regular season games, but when postseason basketball starts, you better believe I'm watching that over a regular season Major League Baseball game. Right. When postseason hockey starts, I'm watching a hockey postseason game over an MLB game. And it has nothing to do with me not liking baseball. It's game 13 compared to, I'm either going to win this or I'm going to go home, game on the line. This is the best teams that are still left. You know what it is. It's higher competition compared to just game 13.
And so then, guys, by the time you get to the end of that regular season, guess what?
It's football.
Big Daddy stepped up.
It's football.
So at no point Major League Baseball has any opportunity like they've had in the past where summer's there.
You can dominate.
That's it.
It's either that you're either watching baseball and then Sundays are for NASCAR.
Right.
But
Bob,
now everything is just right
There's
here.
a mock-up of what the Grizzlies
that's a
stadium's supposed to look like. If I'm guessing there on the bottom left is Franklin Boulevard. It's to give you guys an idea of what you're looking at with a little grassy area and home run area, and what they're wanting to do is add some apartments and some a bar and drinking district there on the left. If you're looking over there. In this area, if you can see it on the screen.
Chris Nelson in the chat, MLB is about to really screw this season up. I think they are.
Yep.
I think they're really getting in the way of themselves. But this is beautiful.
So
if it follows, anything can change. But this mock-up, if they follow this for Gastonia, that's the huge draw.
So what they didn't put on this map, Robbie, is somewhere over here down this road is the adult entertainment building. I mean, it's right there. It might even be that building over here in the corner.
Yeah.
This might even be it. I mean, it is very close to that area.
We know where the players are going after.
I was about to say, keep the players happy.
Have it after the
players and fans happy. 7th inning stretch, more like 7th inning. Let's go over here to the Gentlemen's Club.
I have been with I was with the Grizzlies. I had 2 roommates. And that were interns with the Grizzlies one summer, and let's just say after the games they had a good time. So
I imagine.
What I'm gonna say is I would bet there's some patrons to that establishment there. If you're watching online, pretty much right above me. Let's go over here. Here we go. Right there, somewhere over in there is the. If you're wondering when you go to the ballparks. It's so close. Like everybody that once they put it over there, that was the first question people had. Is that going to be in the left field, or is that going to be part of the entertainment?
Left fielder's not getting any action. He's going to walk right out. There's a little secret door there, and he's just going to go have himself a good time.
Free admission with a ticket,
so
boys.
Robbie's
Free admission with
Eagles,
a ticket.
a Duke, a Braves, a Flyers, and the fans of the Earnhardts. The Flyers, I remember when I was a lot smaller, the big man was Eric Lindros.
Oh, yeah.
That was the. He was supposed to be the guy that take Gretzky's place.
I have tried to get into hockey more in the past few years.
It's soccer on ice. How do you not like it?
Listen, I know it is. It's just
and fighting it.
Listen,
there's no flopping in hockey.
But for television, unless you're just actively searching for it, it's not easily accessible. Like soccer isn't easily accessible.
You talk about channel wise?
Yeah, channel wise. It's not just something where it's like. On ESPN, they're going to have basketball, college basketball, football. They're going to show it all. There's not always, unless it's a playoff game or a big game.
And I'm going to be honest, guys, some of the most exciting games I've been to in person, and I think that's the big thing for hockey is going to watch the Charlotte Checkers.
The Checkers, yep.
Man, a hockey game live is it's second to none.
I've never been, and I've always wanted to.
When I was little, well, dang, I was going to say you could go this year, but they really can't. Anything that's minor league is screwed now
anymore.
I had a friend who got hit he got a black eye at a hockey game.
Because the puck came out. Yeah,
a puck came
man.
over the net and hit him in the face. He was about 13, 14 on the baseball team. He got a black eye.
Yeah, I remember when the Hurricanes won the Stanley Cup. Of course, it's been years ago. I remember that. But I was so young, I never really claimed a team. I would just go to like a TJ Maxx, see a cool hockey jersey, and I would wear it. I had a Boston Bruins jersey. I had a New York Sabres jersey.
Hockey does have some nice.
They have cool jerseys, and I like the team names as well. I think some of them are really cool. Yeah. But I've really tried to get, because obviously they're getting better now and they're really young. I think this is a great time if you are trying to get into hockey and you're local, you can just root for the Carolina Hurricanes.
Absolutely.
The problem I think that hurts the Hurricanes is the area they're in. And I know that the Raleigh people probably really love it, but western part of North Carolina, they really it's still a 3.5 hour drive to go out there and see them. You know,
well, just think where you live right here. It's just as quick to go to Atlanta as it is to Raleigh. So
yes.
When you say, I could be a Thrashers fan just as much as I could be a Hurricanes fan by driving distance, if that's the way.
And then you also
look at it.
And not only that, I said this a few weeks ago because the story came out. Hurricanes were dropping the Checkers as their feeder team. I said, well, you're basically cutting off opportunity for a whole fan base on the western part of North Carolina. Right. Because if we want to see a hockey game, we're not going to drive to 3.5 hours, and it's not easily accessible on television to find. And I just want to see the Checkers.
The East versus West rivalry for the state of North Carolina is a real thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that is an absolute real thing, whether it's in politics, sports, whatever the case may be. Because this state stretches so far, there is a dividing line in this state. And like you said, you until you figure out how to put those things together, it's going to be really difficult. Like you said, for a team like for the Hurricanes, it's going to be hard to pull off. Not as tough for the Panthers because we talked about, again, football is its own entity.
Football is king. You're right.
Again, for a team like the Hurricanes, how do you pull that together? And like you said, not taking advantage of that relationship with the Checkers is huge.
I think it is huge. I think that is huge. And I think that's going to be one of the things going forward when larger, obviously like the MLB, all these teams and all these larger leagues are thinking about expanding. They immediately think Charlotte. They never think about Raleigh. And people forget, like, if they don't know geography, they don't know American history. Raleigh is the capital. As much as people could probably sit here and say, well, there's more to do, and Charlotte obviously is the bigger and more well-known city, Raleigh's still the capital.
Let me give you a neat trick about how to remember some of the capitals.
Listen to the Animaniacs song.
Well, that. All right, you got me.
Hey, there you go.
Right.
But I'm just
I was going to
saying.
Say, almost all states look at the university
and where they're at.
And that is the capital.
Columbus.
So the University of North Carolina is not in the capital. NC State is in the capital.
Ohio State is in the capital.
Right.
Columbus.
But Ohio University is not. That's just a fun little.
I'm
for sports, every state
for
isn't
sports
the same.
fans
every
and people that pay attention, that would be fun. But you understand what I'm saying? Is like they all these expansion teams, they're always looking at Charlotte. If you're looking at the state of North Carolina, Raleigh just gets left out, and that whole area, at least the eastern part of North Carolina, it is the Hurricanes. Or mostly, you're just rooting for college teams. That's about it. Because then you're getting obviously, Duke, North Carolina, NC State is in the triangle. East Carolina's out there. That's basically all you really have, because you are really, like we said, it's about a 3-hour drive. You're excommunicated from the Hornets and the Panthers, which recently you're not really missing much, so it's okay. But then if they bring in a Major League Baseball team, they're excommunicated from that as well. They got the Durham Bulls out there, obviously. They've got their AAA teams, but when it comes to professional sports, all they can hold on to is the Hurricanes.
The Panthers and the Hornets are combined 50-some years, no titles. They got 2 title appearances. Hornets never made it out of the second round, though. Just
About to say Panthers can only hold that. They've made the Super Bowl.
yeah, they've
twice.
actually made it. They're the I call them the Cincinnati Bengals because they're both Queen Cities. They're both Cats. They both lost 2 Super Bowls. I mean, it can't get any more similar than that. So
Yeah.
the Bengals and the Panthers. Now, all right,
the bung holes in the kitty
I've
cats.
got 2
Yes.
Mount Rushmores today,
Okay.
and these are especially for Rob.
Uh-oh.
Rob specific. Now, I didn't ask him to prepare because I wanted him to go off his heart and see where he goes. The second one we're going to end the show near the end of the show. This one I want to do early. All right, Rob, NFL, your Philadelphia Eagles, Mount Rushmore.
Oh man.
I'm going to give you some nominations from Ranker.com. This is my favorite place to go for.
I think
they do a good
pretty
job
accurate.
of not necessarily get them in order, but it gives you a good names of the list. So I'm going to give you some of the top 25 names on here. Okay.
Okay.
Troy Vincent, Nick Foles, Ron Jaworski, Jason Kelsey, Jeremiah Trotter, Mike Quick, Seth Joyner, Norm Van Brocklin, obviously, Deshaun Jackson, Eric Allen, Zach Ertz, Fletcher Cox, Jerome Brown, Donovan McNabb, Shady McCoy, Jason Peters, Harold Carmichael, Steve Van Buren, Randall Cunningham, Brian Westbrook, Brian Dawkins, Reggie White, Chuck Bednarik. Those are your nominees for the Philadelphia Eagles, Mount Rushmore. Hunter, give me one that you believe is going to be on there no matter what. Reggie White, Brian Dawkins, Brian Westbrook, Randall Cunningham.
Cunningham was probably who I was going to say.
All right, so
But I'm not an Eagles fan. I'm a Washington fan, so I would never, ever put any of them on there. You know what? Take that back. Nick Foles. He did win you a Super Bowl.
well,
so
that's
going to be
that's going to be
difficult.
tough. You've got Cunningham, McNabb, and Foles. One of them may be the best rushing quarterback of all time. One of them got you to a Super Bowl or three NFC championships.
Yeah.
And the other one won the dang thing.
Donovan McNabb. God, I'm
So
great. God
that's
rest his
things
soul.
to think. Yeah, I mean McNabb's done very well. If Foles don't win the Super Bowl, there's not even a question. I would say
A
whether
lot
McNabb's
of people consider Donovan McNabb, though, I think as a Philadelphia, they consider him almost a traitor because he did go to the division rival in Washington. I know a lot of people that are Philadelphia fans. They do not like Donovan McNabb.
A lot of hurt feelings with him. I was funny as you was reading off your list. I was writing down names. I kept thinking, okay, is this person going to show up? This person's going to show up. For me, the 4, I go with Randall Cunningham.
Okay.
I think what he brought to the table during that time, and watching what he could. He was a Michael Vick before there was a Michael Vick. He was any of these athletic throwing quarterbacks you could think of. Randall was it before them.
That's one thing that drives me crazy, Rob, and I'm sure it does you as an Eagles fan, is when anytime a running quarterback comes out, they say he changed the game. Every single one of them. Vic, Tebow, Kaepernick. Now we're talking about Lamar Jackson. None of them changed the game because if they did, there would be 30 running quarterbacks.
That's right.
A few of them were difference makers, obviously. But Randall Cunningham, to me, his nickname was the ultimate weapon. If he had, they had a good defense. They just,
they didn't have the weapons around him to take advantage of what he could do.
Right. You didn't have great weapons there. It was kind of like what they did in Atlanta with Vic, where his best receiver was his tight end and Crumpler, and Keith Jackson might have been Randall's best receiver in Philadelphia for a lot of that. And
if it wasn't Michael Vick, it was Warren Dunn.
I don't want to say
they fed Warren Dunn.
I hate to say coaching, but Buddy Ryan wasn't there for the offense.
That's exactly right.
Your defense was nasty, and he was a good defensive coordinator. But maybe if y'all had Bill Parcells with that team, Cunningham to me is the one. And then he goes to Minnesota and goes 15-1, reinvents himself as not only was he faster, could jump higher than almost anyone out there, he threw the ball 80 yards. Like that's nobody. There's nothing that Randall Cunningham.
It helped.
I have no complaint.
It helped. He had Chris Carter and Randy Moss to throw to.
Right. Well, exactly. And imagine
weapons.
again, go back to those Eagles teams. he didn't have those guys around him.
Yeah, in Philadelphia, he had the defense and no offense, and then Minnesota, he had the offense without the defense.
That's right.
But Cunningham just he's still the all-time leading rusher in quarterback. So Cam's got some couple thousand yards to get to, and right now he don't even have a team.
He got a team.
So I don't even know if he's going to get there. So you got Randall on there. I always thought that might be questionable considering what's happened since him, but that's perfectly fine with me. Go ahead.
If there's ever been a guy that can be on 2 Mt Rushmores for 2 different organizations, it's got to be Reggie White.
Right.
I mean, and with Reggie, you watch what he did on the football field, but you can also look back at his time in Philadelphia, what he did away from the field as well. He had such a big impact on the city, not just as a player, but as a person. So I definitely put Reggie White on there. If there's ever been a guy that I think if you cut him open and that midnight green would pour out, it's Brian Dawkins.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dawk, and even after going to Denver, he's come back to the city and still lives in Philly and is so involved with what they do. And the last time I'm going back and you go back and watch some old footage of this guy, Chuck Bednarik. You talk about a beast, and it was neat. I've watched some things of him, and they would have pictures of his hands. And his fingers, where they'd been broke so many times, literally were pointing this direction. And yet that's why I can imagine those guys today playing, because you got to be so hard edge to be that kind of guy. And if there's ever been a player that played the way a city feels, it would have been Chuck Bednarik. So those would be my 4 for Philadelphia.
Well, Ranker has Reggie 1, Dawkins 2, Bednarik 3, and Randall 5.
Wow.
The person they have in front of Randall Cunningham is Westbrook.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's hard for me, though, to have a Mount Rushmore without a quarterback on it, though. So if you put Westbrook over Cunningham, you're like, but now Westbrook, I think he's second or third in all-time purpose yards. So that's something you got to think about. Bednarik, 99% of the people alive haven't seen him play.
And if I'm building a mini Rushmore over here to the side of it, like you said, Westbrook would be number 1
right there on that
group with that group.
But then how do you say
pass less?
And then Hunter made fun of it, but then again, how do you not? What about Nick Foles?
He did win a Super Bowl, but
I mean, he got the ring.
I mean, but then you could say the same thing about, what's his name? I don't know why his name escapes me. I'm looking right at his bald head. Trent Dilfer.
Yeah,
then you could say, Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl with Baltimore, but he's not going to be on your Mount Rushmore Baltimore players.
Yeah, but here's my thing. Yeah, Nick Foles won the Super Bowl.
Carson Wentz
is healthy. He wins the Super Bowl.
I believe so too.
They gonna run the Philly special with Carson Wentz?
Yeah.
Listen, Carson Wentz is almost just as athletic as Nick Foles. That's what got him. That's what gets him hurt.
He's a lot bigger than people think he is. Wentz is. Isn't he like 6'6" or?
Yeah, he's pretty big. He's like 6'5".
He's a big kid.
What people don't realize too is,
he's 23.
So he will say he was obviously, he probably was raised in North Dakota. He was born in Raleigh. Mm-hmm. Born in Raleigh, North Carolina.
It's amazing. You go look at all these players. Carolina connections, baby.
Mm-hmm. A lot of them have Carolina connections.
So, Rob, speaking of that, you can still buy, because I was on NFLshop.com's having sales or whatever. I was looking at some Browns hats. They had a Browns elf shark tooth hat. So that's what I was like. You remember the old shark tooth hat? I was trying to explain to Andre. He couldn't remember what they looked like. That's the number 1 probably selling hat maybe of all time besides the fitted baseball hats. And went to Pigeon Forge last weekend. They had some up there. They had Panthers and Cowboys. And they were the newer versions. They weren't the older versions. Right. So the colors and stuff were a little bit different. But I went and looked online. They had the elf Browns one. But the Rams getting they have 20. You can get only 22 of the 30 teams. You can buy the kids. The kids outfits with the helmets. There's 8 teams that don't have them. Tampa's one of them. I think that because they got the new jersey. I thought, they're getting New Jersey. So I went and clicked on the Rams. No, you can buy the Rams.
St. Louis.
No. Here's what's bad about the Rams. You can buy the one with the gold helmets. They ain't even had those in how many years? That's the ones they're selling online for the Rams. You can buy the Rams with the gold helmets. And they're also selling, guys, for $47. You can still get a Todd Gurley kids jersey for the Rams.
For $47?
Yes. Who goes, I want the guy who don't play with us anymore and the old design of the jersey, and I'm going to drop a 50 spot
I think
on
I'll hold out on that till it shows up at one of these places where you dig through a bunch of stuff
It's
and
like
find it in the
$5.
box.
$2.
Yeah.
That's a $5 jersey.
That's what I'm saying.
$40.
Oh, and LA, if you're listening, pay the damn man. I know y'all just had to get a little bit of a payout from the NFL because you were so deep in the cap, but come on now. The guy shouldn't have to sit here and basically threaten you because you have decided not to pay the money that he's owed. Come on, LA. Don't be stupid. Apparently, a lot of players are in that. I think Clay Matthews is in that same boat where the contract that he's not been paid all of his money through that contract. He's not even with the team anymore.
So Rob's all-time Eagles is Randall Cunningham, Reggie White, Brian Dawkins, and Chuck Bednarik for your Philadelphia Eagles.
I'm fine with it.
Mount
I'm like,
Rushmore.
I know all three. I know 3 of those 4 names. I don't know Bednarik. But
you got to go, if you can find the footage, go back and watch him. It's absurd. It's absurd to watch him play.
Okay, so that's going to move on to
sorry, Nick Foles.
let's you guys kind of alluded to it earlier. I want to let's talk baseball. That they're now discussed the 76 game schedule. Rob, basically where we're at, and it's kind of a little silly. Done as much research on it as I can. From what I've seen, they're at basically a $360 million disagreement between the players and the owners. Now, if you do the math on that between 30 owners, that's $11 million an owner.
Yep.
And they're billionaires. So boo-hoo, whatever.
And here's the thing I can't figure out, guys. Don't you need to get on TV because of the multi-million-dollar TV contracts?
Yeah.
All their money's coming.
I mean, you talk about a huge amount of money.
They wasn't making it at the gate anyways. You see them, nobody's at the ballpark.
If I'm the owners, I mean, it's look. Whatever we got to do, we got to get back on television. That's where our money's at.
Let me pull up I got a pie chart somewhere.
I think
with the percentages.
some people,
Here it is.
players might not like that it is 70 games, but I think that's the perfect amount.
So,
70 to 80. I think that's how it should have been for years. None of this 162. I know that's how they have to pay. That's how they get the most guaranteed money to their players. But as a fan, I'm telling you, man, 161, I really don't care about.
So basically, what the owners are trying to do is only pay the players with the money they're going to make this year, not with the money they made last year or the money they made the year before or the year before that. So, Rob, last year they made $10 billion.
Right.
They're expected to make anywhere between $3 to $5 billion this year. The owners say, we're losing $5 to $7 billion. No, you're making $3 billion. So what are you complaining about? They're still making the money. Now, they want less games because that means they'll have to pay the players less.
Right.
So the argument is the owners want 40-some games. The players want to play anywhere from 80 to 110 games prorated. Now, they originally agreed to play everything prorated. Now, the owners come back and say, we want to pay 40 games and pay your percentage of your contract compared to the team compared to revenues. So, basically, Mike Trout would be making somewhere like $6-7 million on a $40 million contract, which he can live off $6-7 million. But the guys making the minimum wage guys are getting $500,000. If you take 80% of that away, now they're down to $50,000 to play baseball. And
that's got to be terrible.
And they're risking. Well, I know that. And they're risking though the coronavirus. That's the other thing with it too. Are they risking their health with it? So basically, what it is, it's turned into there's a pie between 46 games to 100 games of $360 million, and that's what we're arguing over. So it turns into $10 million an owner. And how many players are in Major League Baseball? I don't even know, but it's not that much.
And see, guys, that's the issue now too. People are watching this argument take place in the midst of watching mom and pop shops having to shut down because of what's going on with the coronavirus and the things that's happening in our country. So you begin to even be turned off that much more by a sport that, and I know we're going to talk about Sosa and McGuire in a little bit, that's got to find a way to bring eyeballs back. And when
it really does.
And when do you get to that teetering point where those eyeballs don't come back anymore? And that goes back to what we talked about earlier. This year, you're going head to head with other sports that we're already watching, getting their stuff worked out, getting ready to play, while we're watching these two groups bicker back and forth over what they're going to do. The owners, and to me, the owners are the lead in this. They just need to come out and say, look, we've got to get our sport back on the field. Let's get going. We're going to pay your whatever whatever we work out contract wise. I understand not wanting to pay the whole thing because you're not paying. What's the issue with going and looking at 162 game schedule and just average out and go from there?
That's what they originally agreed to,
and just do it.
Well, that's what they originally agreed to, and then the owners come back and said, "Oh, we're not making enough money."
See,
so they're reneging on the deal.
See, and again, that's where the owners, if they truly want this sport to continue to try to prosper, they've got to come back to the table and say, "Okay, let's do this, and let's do it that way." Because if we don't, and we don't get out of our own way, we're going to have a lost season.
So here's your percentages on where they get their money from. 20% is gate receipts. Okay. 10% is premium seating. 1% on concessions. So the concessions, they charge you $8 a hot dog. They're still barely making. They're making money. Think about how much money they're making on everything else.
That's exactly
if they're
right.
charging you $7 a hot dog, and that's only 1% of their
yes, sir.
beer. That includes beer. An $8 beer and a $15 beer and hot dog that they're making $14 on is only 1% of their revenue.
It also shows why these stadiums are able to have these sections of all you can eat hot dogs, all you can drink, all you can,
and empty seats.
Yep.
So let's see. Gate receipts is 20. Like I said, premium seating is 10. Concessions is 1. So that's 31%. And then everything else on the list is national media, local media, sponsorship, licensing, postseason play. So 30% basically is what they would be losing or not making. They're still making 70% of what they were. So basically, they're still making the $7 billion, Rob. And instead of either going in their pockets or that they've saved money for, obviously, that they don't want to come out of their pockets and put it on the players. And I think it's bad. It's bad to make the players look bad in this situation. Like what's their end game? Like, obviously, they can say less games, we make more money. Owners really, if they cancel the season, they wouldn't lose any money. And the players, they lost a year of money, and that's the difference in these people. That the owners aren't going to lose their franchise stuff, and they can go hire replacement players or whatever else I guess they might want to do. But I don't know I think the owners need to come off of it. And the problem you're talking about, the competition, I think also when they come back, let's say they come back, they're going to be going against the NHL playoffs. NBA playoffs.
Basically, yeah, NBA playoffs.
And then maybe the start of football.
And all of those, college football.
All of those are big in those sports. So you're 100% right on they've got a competition problem to come back, because what you just said, why would I watch a regular season baseball game at any time as opposed to a playoff game?
And like I said, it is not because I don't like baseball. It's because I don't really care about the Toronto Blue Jays coming over here to play Detroit. One of them's good, one of them is sorry. When I can watch two of the best teams in their own sport play against each other and there's more on the line, which is why I think baseball definitely needs to do something if they're coming back this year around 70 to 80 games mark. And you know why? Because then it becomes... You know what they used to say? Oh, it's a marathon. You got to take time. Now it's a sprint, and I think it will make the games more enjoyable, and you'll get more people to tune in because there is that sense of urgency. You can, but you can't just take a night off.
Right.
Like you still can. I mean, it's still 70 damn games. The NBA still does it, but still, you can. It's a little bit more urgent than saying, "Oh, don't worry, we've got 100 extra games by the time you get to game 50." Is a big difference when game 50 hits and there's only about 20 left and you're like, yikes.
And especially with baseball, for whatever, lends itself to the team slump. It's, basketball can have a guy go, struggles a night, the team can still put points on the board. How many times have we seen baseball teams where, for whatever reason, nobody can hit the ball, and they're on a 5, 6, 7 game losing streak because they just can't put the ball in play?
I tell you what,
that's the Baltimore Orioles every year. It seems like there's just a slump from the beginning to the end.
Right. I tell you what, baseball in general, and Rob, you've done enough games over the years. Once one person starts hitting in a game, everybody does, because to me, the answer and reason what you're talking is a timing thing. So, baseball players, it's all about timing. So when I'm in the batter's box watching the pitcher in front of me, and I've seen the guy in front of me. I know everything the guy in front of me likes, doesn't like, hits, whatever. If I see him struggling on a curveball and know he hits curveballs, I know this guy's got something.
That's right.
And you can tell, like, like say I'm hitting behind Mason or whatever, and he hits one to right field instead of left field. Pulls. Well, Mason's got a faster bat than me. I may need to look to go to right field in this at bat. It's almost like, and you see the guys hit the fastballs in front of you. It's almost a timing in your head. The pitcher let go, bing. Pitcher let go, bing, and then you get up in that batter's box. You're kind of already ready for that. Dustin, we played in adult league. He bats left-handed, and we would be in the third base dugout. Third base dugout. And I was on deck. I could just look right at him, and he always takes the first pitch. Okay, so I know he's going to take the first pitch. So I can sit there and watch that first pitch and time my swing. I like hitting first pitch. So I see Dustin take the first one, waiting on the second one. He knows as a left-handed power hitter, if he gets a ball in the first one, he's going to get to swing at the second one, maybe.
Right.
If he gets a strike in the first one, that guy's throwing something deuce at his feet, and he's not going to get to see it. So even the guy in front of you, every single at bat is different in timing wise. And like you said, when your teams will go through slumps like that at a time, and if your best man is having trouble getting on and getting slumping, you're used to seeing him in a rhythm, say in practice, just stroking it. That does affect you as a batter, I would say.
And it's amazing how when those things happen and the smallest tweak in a bat and in the way in your bat approach can throw you off miles.
Okay. For example, last year my son's playing coach pitch. Well, when we play in the backyard, I'm throwing him soft toss. We're playing with plastic balls, and so they go a little bit different than the real baseballs. Well, in coach pitch, the mound the coach is so far back, it's ridiculous to me. And then the coach is 6'2". Well, my son is 3'5". So every pitch he throws overhanded, Rob, is coming in like a rainbow.
Yep.
So how do you teach? And he's the switch hitter, so he's lefty. So his left-handed swing is a loop. That ball drops under his loop. It just drops into it, and he was having trouble with it. And he's right-handed; he could hit it better, but he hits it harder left-handed when he hits it home. So he struggled the first 3 or 4 weeks, couldn't hit the ball at all. And it was a timing thing. The guy that was so taller and he was throwing harder than I was. So all we did was take the bat off his shoulders, and he killed the ball the last 2 games of the season.
Right.
He just a slight little change just to work on his time, and you're 100% right on that.
Absolutely.
All right, 1998, The Long Gone Summer will be coming out this Sunday on ESPN. It's been 22 years on the home run chase of 98. I remember where I was at when McGuire broke it. We were in the Winnebago used to be out here in Myrtle Beach at Ocean Lakes Campground. Actually, we had just bought the thing, and we'd went down for a weekend, and McGuire hit the home run against the Cubs. It barely made it over the wall. That was what's so crazy about all of his home runs. The one that broke the record just barely got over the wall, but I remember where that one was and that summer. And one thing, Rob, that drives me crazy, that I've talked about today's baseball, and kids today don't realize there was a time where the MVP was only on a winning team.
That's right.
A lot of people don't remember that. I remember it because I was a Cardinals fan. So when McGuire hit 70 home runs, he didn't win MVP.
Right.
He had 20-some more RBIs than Sammy Sosa. He didn't win MVP. Sosa did because his team made the playoffs.
Yep.
Tell that to a Mike Trout fan right now.
They'd lose their mind.
He's the MVP. They were 40 games under 500.
He's got 3, 4 MVPs already, Mike
and
Trout.
0 playoff game
That's right.
Wins.
Not series, games. Never won a single playoff game in his career. It was in 9 years. When do you start? When do you start winning?
Think about this. What do they usually do for the NFL? Most of the time, it's the best player on a winning team.
They did the same thing to Pujols in the Bonds era.
Right.
When Pujols and Bonds were going back and forth, whoever was on the better team got the MVP almost every single year.
Yep.
So it used to be like that. That's one thing I do remember from the era and going back and forth is McGuire broke their home run record and then set it at 70 and didn't get MVP.
But see, what I don't like about how baseball does their MVPs is, of course, they do NL, AL
They
MVPs.
do 2.
They do 2 MVPs.
Right.
Why don't they just do a league-wide MVP? Because then you're comparing obviously both leagues at the same time. You're doing the league as a whole MVP, because as many times as people can say, oh, when those three, he's got 3 MVPs, Mike Trout does.
If you was a National League fan, would you be mad? That
You can look at the National League player and say, well, technically he's better. He put up better numbers than Mike Trout.
Right.
But the only person anybody's going to talk about is Mike Trout. It's like there were 2 MVPs. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I want the best player in the league.
Nobody else does too, do they?
No.
Well,
No.
My thing
They
is,
do. He's like Eastern Conference Player of the Week and
as
Western
Braves
Conference Player of
fans,
the Week.
I'm a Cardinals fan. We're National League baseball fans.
Mm-hmm. I could care less what Mike Trout does in the American League.
Would y'all not be upset though if you watched a year of McGuire or Pujols do what he did, and then they turn around and give the MVP to a DH? Pujols plays Gold Glove winning offense, has the same numbers, but the Red Sox win 110 games and they give it to Ortiz. Like, so, yes, you're not happy with the split,
Poppy.
but if you name him, Poppy on an MVP vote,
That's tough, man. Because I like Big Poppy.
Huh? Everybody likes him. He's a steroid cheater, but whatever.
I like Big Poppy.
I'll say it. I'm not a big Poppy fan.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I'd
He beat the Cardinals,
give a
okay?
damn if you use steroids or not. I think everybody should just use them. Whatever, make the whole field use it, and then you can't complain.
Well, another thing on the steroid era, Rob, is that they weren't illegal. They weren't against the rules. So how do you punish someone for breaking a rule that wasn't a rule?
And let's go back and look at and I know we go back a long ways, but you go back and look at the 1920s when Babe Ruth and all those guys were doing their things. And we don't talk about the uppers and downers and things like that they were using going into their games. To me,
the 70s and 80s, they've been talking about amphetamines in baseball for years.
So there's always something, and like you said, until it's been illegal, until you outlaw it as an organization, as a league, there's no way you can penalize the guys that were doing it. Mm-hmm. And to me, and it kind of goes back to what we talked about now, if baseball can't get its act together, you go back to the 94 strike shortened season. Mm-hmm. You come out after that, and baseball is struggling. Mm-hmm. There's no fans in attendance. There's the eyes are not watching on television. I mean, and it's across the league. Something had to give, or baseball was dying on the vine. The best thing that happened for baseball was when Sosa and McGuire started what they started. And now you're getting to the point where it doesn't matter what's on TV. Anytime one of those guys, and I'll never forget, it doesn't matter what you're watching. Anytime one of those guys come to bat, you break in with a news story. Mm-hmm. Here's McGuire's up now. Let's see what happens.
They did it with Bonds.
And it was they were going back and forth, and everybody. You talk about something that superseded baseball. This became a story more than just about baseball. It was. I'm like you, Kevin. It's hard to explain what was going on because, I remember where I was at because I was at my current wife's house. We were dating then, and I was at her house. And she wasn't the biggest sports fan in the world, but that's all we talked about was McGuire and Sosa. Mm-hmm. So they had to have something to change the perception of baseball, and that's why baseball could have cared less if those guys were juicing.
Sammy Sosa was you talk about that era. He was this era's like Roger Maris. Mm-hmm. Like he was not McGuire has famously said he didn't even know who Sammy Sosa was until July of that year or June of that year when he hit 20 homers. Never heard of him, didn't know who he was. They played in the same league. He was I played against him for the
same division.
Yes, same
rival.
Division.
Didn't know who he was. Okay? And this is when I was looking up some info here, talking about the home run chase. It was mentioning King Griffey Jr. He also hit, I think he hit 51 that year or something like that. Mm-hmm. Like everyone thought Griffey had the best swing, obviously. Yes. McGuire, I think I need to type this in to make sure I get exactly right. I think he's still all-time number one in home runs per at bat. And that one to me, once I read you that list, you'll be like, okay. He was talking about the viewership. The most watched regular season game in ESPN history is still the 98 September 7th game with 10.6 million viewers, Cubs and Cardinals. McGuire tied Roger Maris with the 61st home run. ESPN and Fox both established their overall regular season ratings records that year. ESPN 21% higher than any other year and Fox 20% higher in any other year. Both teams setting attendance records, home and road records. McGuire, they had 45,000 fans at a Marlins game, Hunter.
You could end this conversation right
That's
there.
it.
Period.
That's it.
That shows some age with that statement because, damn, they've never seen that probably in the last 10 years. They couldn't even draw a crowd when they had Stanton.
So attendance dropped 20% in 1995 after the strike, Rob. It increased 6% to 96, 5% in 97, but only 4% in 98, and it actually declined again in 99. So they're saying the ratings went up, but the attendance still did not.
But you have to have eyes. Whether they're there live or if they're watching on television, you've got to have those eyes on your product.
That's how you sell advertisements for money. That's how this business runs.
That's how we get to these multi-million-dollar contracts that these teams are signing.
Why do you think everybody and their brother tries to get on for a Super Bowl ad? Yep. They don't care how much money they pay. Because after you see that Super Bowl ad, guess what? Damn it, you want a Pepsi.
Yep. So here's what everybody here's
you want some Doritos.
Here's the lead up what I was talking about with the Griffey thing. In 96, McGuire hit 52 in 130 games. He was on pace for 62 in 155 games. So he was on pace to break the record with 7 games left in the season. In 97, he hits 58 home runs between the year he got traded to the Cardinals. He didn't get to win the home run crown because his home runs were split. Had the most home runs in baseball, but didn't get a crown that year, Hunter. There's your mixed awards.
Yep.
Then so Griffey,
MLB stupid.
In 96 hit 49 homers in just 140 games, and then 56 homers in 1997. So everybody thought Griffey was going to be the one, not Sammy. Like I said, nobody thought Sosa. Let's see. Sosa had averaged 37 home runs in the previous 3 seasons, but before that, he was absolutely nothing really. And then of course they went off. I don't know if I've seen Sosa hit a home run, but Rob, I've seen McGuire take batting practice, and it's nothing like any player I've ever seen in the history of my life. I've seen Bonds, I've seen Pujol, I've seen them all the big names, Griffey, all of them. No one has ever hit a baseball as hard or far that I've seen in person as Mark McGuire, and it's not even close. The best story I like to tell is going down to see Cardinals and Braves in Turner Field, and Fulton County was a homer park.
Right.
Turner was not. Turner Field, almost all the home runs. It didn't matter. Sheffield, Chipper, Edmonds, all of them.
I'll tell you a guy, and the times I've gone to Atlanta and watched batting practice, see a guy that could just, and like you said, a batting practice hitter and crushing baseballs. That's Ryan Klesko.
He hit some high balls.
He would tower some baseballs out of that stadium.
He would. What I was getting at is those guys that would hit them, and they would still land in the lower deck, center field, left field. It didn't matter where; they were still landing in the lower deck. McGuire come up to bat, and it was me and 2 other friends, and everybody stood up, and we're sitting there holding our gloves and everything, and we're in left field about halfway up the lower section. The first one he hits is a line drive, and it's a home run, and it hits the seat, same row, 7, 8 seats over. We didn't get to it. It was so fast. It looked like it was coming at us, and it just hooked. Robbie hit the seat, and the seat was blue. You ever seen plastic when it gets bent? What color does it turn?
Turns white.
That's exactly what the seat did. There was a big white, almost hole in the middle of the seat. And the guy standing next to me goes, "Holy shit, give me a glove." Because at first he's like, "I can catch this. They catch it on TV without a glove." He's like, "No, give me a glove."
Yep.
Rob, the next 10 swings he hit went over our heads into the upper deck at Turner Field, up there on the walkway where the big Coke sign is. People don't hit baseballs that far.
That's right.
And so I was so impressed by that, and we went to St. Louis to see him play, and we had upper deck tickets. And honest to God, guys, I could stand up, scoot up, and could hug the foul pole like this. So I'm on the foul pole in the upper deck. And in batting practice, he was putting them up there with us, further down, other than left center, and we're just looking at each other like, we can't even tell who's swinging. We're so far away. Well, we know that's McGuire because they're landing up here with us. I mean, upper deck of one of those. And have you been to Fulton County? Just how high? You've been in the upper deck, Hunter, of a football stadium.
Yeah.
Just think about a baseball is landing up there, and you're just like,
yeah, that's what it was.
What?
Yeah, that's what Fulton County was.
and he would hit the ball, and it would go, and it'd get to a point. You've seen anybody seen a golf ball hit, and then it just starts falling? That's exactly what his baseballs look like. From the side, they would come up, and like, crap, that's going to go out of the stadium, and it just stopped. And it just fell out of the sky like a snowflake. And it was amazing. And yes, steroids, wherever you want to say, again, nothing that he took or they took, Bonds included, was against the rules when they did.
And that's my thing, too. I think that it kind of discredits these guys for how good they are because my favorite individual baseball player of all time was Ricky Henderson.
Okay. This is a big-time Ricky Henderson loving show.
I loved those Oakland A's teams.
Right.
And when you would go and watch that team take batting practice, I mean, you're talking about McGuire and Canseco and Henderson and Dave Parker, Dave Henderson. We're talking about dudes that will kill baseballs. So I think it's, to me, when we start talking about and they start discrediting these steroid guys, yeah, they beefed up. It made them stronger. It did not diminish at all what they could do at the plate because
I've said that for years. I said, Luke, just because a guy's shooting up with steroids doesn't mean it makes him see the baseball any better at the plate.
Just because Barry Bonds' head grew 3 sizes that day, like the Grinch's heart.
It did.
You go back and watch him in the early '90s series when the Braves were playing the Pirates. He's the best baseball player on the field. That doesn't change. That talent doesn't go away. He just grows abnormally.
Canseco had a 40 homer, 40 stolen base season. 40 home runs, 40 stolen base, MVP, Jose Canseco, 124 RBIs. His slugging percentage that year was .569. Canseco, I actually have him in my list here to tell Rob about my. Hey, Rob, I got the Bash Brothers right here. Here's the Bash Brothers. They're right here.
I love
There's
it.
Canseco and McGuire. Canseco is a show favorite because he is a complete nutbag.
He is, absolutely.
He is a complete nutbag. He is a Bigfoot researcher and hunter. This week he announced that he was wanting to run for president. There's nothing, Rob, on his Twitter feed that is not complete gold. So this week, talking about wanting to run for president, he said, all I need is $1 from everyone in this country who wants change to finance my running for president. And someone asked, what if everyone, instead of asking one ever from $1 in America, we just ask for a nickel from everyone in the world and you can be king of earth?
You wonder, guys, when we look back at Canseco in history, you reckon the home run ball off the top of the head did knock something loose?
It might have done something. He said, here's your one for your riots and stuff. We need to replace the corrupt police and military with robotic police and military. Has he ever seen a sci-fi movie? And no, that never works out. Not once.
The robots do end up taking over. Everyone I've seen, the robots do take over.
Yeah, check out iRobot. We'll start there. But I just love this Canseco stuff. I mean, it's just he is so funny online, and he don't even really mean to be a lot of it. Of course, he's if everyone knows about the A-Rod J-Lo split up, he's in the middle of that too, because of apparently A-Rod's been doing his wife, and Canseco calls him out on Twitter all the time. It's like every day, hey A-Rod, you talked to my wife today? It's just. Jose Canseco, if people would pay more attention, has done so much for America in the comedy world without him knowing. I just can't get enough of it. It's just so funny. The Bash Brothers were pretty good. Hunter, I mean, what 40 homers, 40 steals, 40 homers, 26 steals, 122 RBIs. The dude could, and
I mean, look, Ronald Acuna was the youngest one to
I
get
was
to
about
30.
to say, now we talk about MVPs and not winning an MVP award.
Not on the best team in the league.
On the best team in the league.
Exactly.
Looking at so talk about those steroids and kind of what you did. This might have been my theory, and you can say whatever you want.
I love them.
Looking at, so you look at Canseco and you look at Bonds and you look at McGuire. McGuire and Canseco's batting averages never really skyrocketed.
Right.
Okay. Bonds was always a good average hitter.
Yeah.
Canseco and McGuire went from hitting, I would say, 400 to 500, to basically 350 to 450 home runs to the 450 to 550 area home runs in feet. So they went from hitting the ball over with regularity to hitting it way over.
Right.
My thing with Bonds was he went from a doubles hitter to a home run hitter. So if you add 30 feet to McGuire's baseballs, he's only going 450 feet instead of 500 feet. Okay, the batting average isn't going to change.
Right.
If you're a doubles hitter and you're only hitting 20 some homers a year, and you add 30 to 40 feet on that's where you get in Bonds' number and home run and numbers jumping up, because balls that were going to be flyouts or doubles are now going out of the park.
Carrying out.
And that's the difference. That's how his numbers jump. I think McGuire, he hit 70 home runs this year. Let's take steroids away. He still hits 50 or 55.
And I think that's
Bonds
the one
never
thing.
hit 50 but once in his whole career.
I think that's the one thing that baseball is
70.
missing now too, is people forget. I mean, I don't forget. You know, Barry Bonds was a big name just because we knew when he was coming to the plate, there was maybe 1 out of 3 opportunities is going out of the park at some point. And now you don't have those home run competitions that you used to have anymore. You really don't. The only one that I would try and keep up with this past few years, but he seemed to always get hurt, was Christian Yelich. I love watching Christian Yelich swing the baseball or swing the bat and hit the baseball, because you don't have those 60, almost 70 home run seasons anymore.
Right.
You don't do that. It is not as exciting. And I'm one of those people for baseball. I like watching pitching. I love to watch good pitching battles. But for just the average fan, if you have somebody that you're coming to the plate and all eyes and ears on, are they going to have an opportunity to break the record? There are no more records being really broken in baseball anymore.
And here's my thing with baseball too, guys. They're talking about.
So it's not exciting, and there's no narrative. The biggest narrative baseball has had has now been the cheating scandal with the Houston Astros, which is really a black stain on it, and the Cubs finally winning a World Series a few years ago after the 100 years that they haven't.
I think what would be best for baseball would be to reduce the games, because it does two things. It takes out a ton of wasted time in baseball. You don't need to be watching game 130 between the Royals and the Orioles this year. That's one key element to it. But also by having, you have less games, the competition is going to get better. You're talking about the records. Well, obviously, the records don't mean anything in baseball anymore, because we say the steroid guys and the home runs. Pete Rose is the all-time hits leader, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. So the hits leader, the home runs leader aren't in the Hall of Fame. Then reduce the games if the numbers don't mean anything, and all we're doing is war anyway.
And is there any
which is bullshit?
Is there any sports, guys, where that does it more than baseball, where they go to their equipment manufacturers and say, we need a tighter round baseball. We got to loosen them up. We're good. To me,
they suspended Brady for changing the air pressure.
Yeah.
And baseball has been it's not juicing, it's tighter. It's exactly what you're saying. It's causing the spin.
Tighten the baseballs up because they need more home runs. Well, home runs are getting out of hand. We got to loosen the baseball up. So to me, it's kind of like NASCAR, where NASCAR puts down these rules,
restrictions,
and leave them. Say, here's what we're working. If you can figure out some way within this framework to get however many more horsepower than everybody else can, then brother, you go for it, because we've given you what we can work in. Same thing with baseball. Decide what kind of baseball you want to use, and if it's leading to 1,000 home runs a season, so be it. If it's leading to 50 home runs a season, so be it. You've got to leave stuff alone, because I'm like you, Kevin. They've changed so much that what are valid numbers anymore?
I was about to say, what can you give validity to if it's come to change every year? That
That's right.
There's always the X factor or what variable changed this year. Maybe players were using different wood bats. Maybe that was
I've heard that argument made that production bats are different. The way they come off the line. Not every tree is made equal.
No.
Right. Maple, ash, and whatever.
And so that maybe they got a good batch of wood that year that the trees were. Maybe this year we see a lot more shattering of the bats. The wood wasn't as strong. There's so many variables inside baseball, equipment-wise, that can change it.
One of the bats was was like 2 years ago. One of the woods was breaking a lot. It may have been even a composite.
And one of the
mix
reasons
that
why
was
I don't
breaking
want
a
to
lot.
take a validity away from steroid users is the same thing I've been saying all the time. Look, just because you take steroids doesn't mean you're going to be able to see that baseball any better. And if you think about it, technically,
Bonds and McGuire have both alluded to that.
Yeah,
And that's what I was meaning with the
but not only
batting
that,
average thing.
I think about it. It would almost be harder when you take steroids because then you have to almost readjust your whole swing because your arms are not what they were. Your chest is bigger. Your back is bigger. It's the same thing as if somebody was to put an extra 20 pounds on in basketball. Let me tell you something. Your shot's going to be a little bit different because your arms are bigger. And now you're telling this guy who is already a good contact hitter in Bonds, who was doubles hitter, could get on base. Essentially, he has to reteach himself now that I've got an extra 20 to almost 30 pounds of muscle on me. My swing is not going to be the exact same as it was. My shoulders are broader. My swing is going to be maybe closer. Maybe it's going to be out longer. He almost had to reteach himself basically how to swing and then be successful at it and maintain it because, that's one of the hardest things to do with anybody. That Tiger alluded to it. Swing coach, sometimes you get away from it. Even Tom Brady goes back to his throwing coach. So, your mechanics. That's what makes you the greatest is if your mechanics are solid. And you're literally going to have to change your mechanics just because of your size. Think about it. NBA players. Anthony Davis didn't hit a growth spurt until he was like a senior in high school. He almost grew 7 inches. You go from playing a guard to now you got to switch everything up and almost adapt now to being a big man. It's almost the same exact thing for steroids. You're not 210 like you were. You're probably 235, pushing 240 right now. You ain't going to swing the bat the same. So that's why, to me, I'm like, I don't want to take validity away from him because it was almost just as hard. They had to readjust everything. And it goes down to the same thing, too. Me and you could be in the batting box, and I promise you, just because I'm on steroids and you're not, if my eyes aren't as good as you, I'm not going to hit the ball as good.
That's right. Eye-hand coordination.
That's exactly right.
I want to look at real quick some of Mike Trout's MVP seasons. Compare them to McGuire's non-MVP seasons.
Can we not?
So Trout last year, 291, 45, and 105. I mean, it's just
45 home runs, 105 RBIs.
What an outstanding year, right? The year McGuire did not win, he set the home record. So Trout he batted 291. Now, he's such a great hitter, right, Robbie?
Yeah.
Mark McGuire batted 299 that year.
Almost 300.
So, what does
and that's
Trout,
what you
what,
shoot
what
for
does Trout
is
do better
300.
than Mark McGuire if he only batted 299? Now, how about home runs? Trout with 45 last year. That was Trout's. I'm going to do this real quick just to give you an idea.
Who even was the home run leader in the American League? Was it Mike Trout?
That is Trout's career high, yes, at 45.
Oh, he's juicing.
2, 3, 4, 5 times McGuire did better than that, and none of them got an MVP in. How about 70 home runs, 147 RBIs? Trout had 45 home runs, 104 RBI. RBIs don't mean anything in today's crowd.
Yeah, they really don't
right.
for some reason.
40 different runners knocked in. How about the year after he hit? The year after he hit 70, he hit 65 and had the exact same RBIs again at 147, batted 278 that year. How about this line, Robbie? Here's you a good one. Now, remember what I just read you about Trout's, right?
Right.
What was it? It was 45. All right, McGuire had in 1996. Let's go in with the A's. So Trout hit 45. McGuire hit 52. Trout had 104 RBIs. McGuire had 113. Trout batted 291. McGuire batted 312. Guess what place he finished in All-Star in the MVP? 7th.
That's crazy.
7 players, Rob. I just read you a number that he beats Trout across the board in.
Right.
And 7 players got more MVP votes than Mark McGuire that year. 52 homers, 113 RBIs, batted 312. His OPS was 1.198 for you OPS fans. And he was 7th in the MVP vote.
That's insane.
7th. Shoot. Here, MVPs. Let's see real quick. 40 homers and 100 RBIs. 1992, he came in 4th. That year, he came in 7th. How about the next year, Rob? Oh, my God. The next year, he has more home runs, more RBIs, but a smaller batting average. 16th. 16th in votes with 58 home runs and 123 RBIs. 16th in MVP votes. And again, that's when your team wins.
Yep.
That's how it used to be in baseball. It didn't matter what you did. They'd be like, but you didn't help your team win.
That's right. You did. Yeah.
That was the thing of every one of them. And now they'll say, we'll pick it on Trout. They'll say, well, you got wins over a replacement player. Well, who's that replacement player? What fake wins did you get? It's just not.
That's right.
Invisible wins. Right? But yeah, the McGuire-Sosa thing, folks. I don't think anybody understands just how far and how hard Mark McGwire hit a baseball. He was actually a pitcher. He was drafted as a pitcher. So he's as close to Babe Ruth as we basically had at some point. And I think he gets underrated a lot. Not just everybody's like, because you're a Cardinals fan. I'm like, he was with the A's for 14 years. He played for the Cardinals for 5. Yes, he broke the record with us, but still, I mean, he's not a better hitter than Albert Pujols. He's a better home run hitter than Albert Pujols. I thought Pujols was what Bonds was as a lefty hitter.
Right.
Doubles, 30 home runs, doubles, all the time. And then you add 40 pounds of feet to your home runs. All right, Hunter, here's your all-time at-bats home run per at-bat. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
Like how many at-bats in your career per home run?
Yes.
I've already told you Mark McGwire is number 1 at 10.6 at-bats for every home run. The guy behind him is a whole home run, 1.1 home runs behind him at 11.76. Got a guess? All time now. It's the Babe. So McGuire's 1. Babe's 2. Barry Bonds is 3. Now we got some newer guys that are for him. 5. 5 is a current player. Do you have a guess on who the current player is?
And what is the question again?
The all-time at-bats per home run. The lowest at-bats per home run. So McGuire's first with every 10 and a half
current
at-bats.
player, I have to go with obviously someone that's probably been in the league for a hot minute.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Pujols?
No.
Okay. So it's not.
I've never, again, he doesn't hit homers at a rate that's like that. He's at 16. He's 38th overall. He hits a home run every 16 at bats, the same as Lou Gehrig, Mike Piazza, Cecil Fielder, Darryl Strawberry, Jay Buhner, Hank Aaron was every 16 at bats. Willie Mays.
I have to go through every baseball team and think who's played for a hot minute.
Who hits the most home runs now? You named him earlier, actually, in something else, but now
I did.
Yeah, you actually said his name out loud earlier. That's why I thought you'd get it easily.
No, I can't remember.
He used to be a Marlin.
Oh, Giancarlo Stanton?
Yep.
Oh,
Stanton is 5th all time, 13.8 at bats.
Dude, I'm telling you, that year he went on to win the home run derby. He was disgusting with Miami. Then he goes to New York, thinks he's getting all that Yankee money, and
He could smoke it. Sosa ended up 8th all time. Ted Williams 9th. You don't think him as a home run hitter?
That was the most fun recently I've had watching a home run derby. Last year's was pretty fun watching Vlad Jr., but the Giancarlo Stanton one, I loved it. He was killing that baseball.
Manny Ramirez and Chris Davis is tied for 10th. Chris Davis is 2nd among active players.
Manny Ramirez, I used to love watching him swing.
Your boy Ryan Howard is 13th.
Don't let anybody disrespect
in
Ryan Howard.
all-time home runs per at bat.
I'll lose it.
Trout is down at 19th with pretty much tied with Jose Canseco in home runs per at bats.
And I'm not even a Phillies fan, but don't let him disrespect Ryan Howard because people forget. I mean, come on now. World Series
Rob,
winner,
did you hear the
MVP.
conversation we had about Votto, about the guy who tweeted about talking about Joey Votto? And this is one of the things.
It was like if his career ended now.
When you look at the advanced statistics that they like to do, and where we add 12 stats together, subtract minus whatever field we're at, all that stuff.
We do algebra.
When they do all that, Joey Votto is ranked like in the top 15 of all time and all that stuff.
That's ridiculous.
And so that's kind of our point.
When I say Joey Votto, do you think Hall of Famer? No.
Right. So this guy went into it one day about Votto, about if you look into the advanced statistics, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And that's where we get out on the shows arguing about are these advanced statistics actually valid statistics or not? And if it's going to put Joey Votto in there, I mean, just for example.
Here's a comparison. Is Joey Votto better than Dale Murphy?
I would guess not. Murphy's not in there.
Murphy's a 2-time MVP.
I know. Willie McGee's an MVP.
I mean,
Votto had a career 284 home runs so far. And that's what we're talking about. Because of his it was the stat was WRAC plus, whatever that is. But it was one of the highest ones of all time, and that's why they made the case that
when
Joey
I say
Votto
Ryan Howard, do you think Hall of Famer?
Should be in the Hall of Fame.
This is a genuine question. MVP, Rookie of the Year, Major League Player of the Year, World Series champion, NLCS MVP.
Maybe get in on the veterans vote.
Ryan Howard has 100 more home runs than Joey Votto. 100 more. He has 382 home runs.
And I'm not going to sit here and make an argument that Ryan Howard is a Hall of Famer, but I'll tell you what, if you bring his name up in Joey Votto's and ask me which one is a Hall of Famer between the two, I'll say Ryan Howard.
Howard hit 58 homers, 149 RBIs one year.
How about this comparison? Of course, me throwing out Braves names. What about Joey Votto versus Javier Lopez?
Well, Javier
Lopez has got a World Series.
I'm telling you, Votto on those whatever stats they add up, he's up there. It's insane.
Yeah, whatever that long algorithm is that they plug together of random, whatever. I know I say this all the time, Rob. Whatever happened to people valuing batting average, home runs, maybe doubles and RBIs? Yeah. What happened? On base percentage, I can get behind. A little bit.
Starting pitchers, they don't value wins anymore for a starting pitcher.
No.
We talked about that with Saturday on about the Cy Youngs and MVP. So
I mean, you guys winning Cy Youngs with losing records.
So again, now follow me. Pretend I'm an advanced statistician proponent.
Yes.
Rob,
I'm pretending.
Wins for pitchers does not matter, but wins above a invisible replacement player is the most important stat in baseball.
Can we cut this, whoever our producers? Can we cut this and put this on Twitter?
Real wins by your pitcher, because we were talking about Nolan Ryan is what got us into this. Like they would say Nolan Ryan's terrible today.
And see, here's the thing too, guys, because we're talking again about where baseball has lacked. Mm-hmm. I remember being a kid, and we talked about stats. Mm-hmm. And like you said, home runs and averages.
My grandparents would get so annoyed with me because I could walk around the house and remember that my dad used to say it all the time. You remember stats on the back of a baseball card better than you do your multiplication tables.
That's right.
I'm like, because that's what interests me.
That's what made baseball great.
Yes.
And I'm not going to turn over a card and have it list all the advanced stats that we're hearing about now.
I'm going to be honest. When I have a son one day, I'm obviously not going to walk up to him and say, son, I need you to get good WAR today.
Yeah.
If you don't go at least 1 for 3 at the plate, we're going to have a problem.
We had Gene Bulls in here, and I asked him if he coaches WAR. Like, if his player come up to you and said, Coach, I need some WAR. Like, what do you do? If I want to coach, I want to hit more doubles. Well, let's work on that. I want to hit more singles. Let's work on it. I want more WAR.
Let's get Coach Reynolds in here and ask about it.
Oh shit, that'd be awesome. How about okay? So last year, here's the WAR leaders from last year. So let's be for example, Cody Bellinger 9.
Cody Bellinger.
Cody Bellinger. Sorry,
Dodgers. MVP type player. He's a good player.
Let me find a nice round number. Christian Yelich.
He's an MVP type player.
7. Okay. So what you're telling me, over 162 game season, that guy helped his team win 2 more games not than Yelich, then a replacement player would have helped him.
Then we don't even know if this dude can play because he's
not
fake.
Even a head-to-head comparison. It's a comparison to an invisible player. So now take 2, Robbie. If your team wins 90 games and you help your team win 2 extra than the guy behind you, well, it's just 2 divided by 90. That means you helped your team win 0.2% of the ball games. Now, Rob.
Now, I'm glad you
said. Does that separate? Like, how does that separate you from?
Now, I'm glad you said Cody Bellinger and Christian Yelich because they'll always talk about the WAR that Mike Trout has.
Right. I was using 9 versus. I was using as close as I could.
Okay, that's fine. So we'll say Mike Trout. We'll say Cody Bellinger. We'll say Christian Yelich. 2 out of the 3 of those at least made the playoffs. 2 out of the 3 can at least make a run for a World Series because their team is going to win. Mike Trout ain't doing that. I'm not talking about Mike Trout as one of those 2 out of the 3. Mike Trout's the one that's left behind because the Angels aren't making the playoffs. They're not winning playoff games. Cody Bellinger might be, arguably, if you take Kershaw out of the equation, and now that they just got Mookie Betts, Bellinger might be the best player on the Dodgers. Christian Yelich is the best player on the Milwaukee Brewers. And they're winning, but Mike Trout with the better WAR and who's winning all these MVPs, they're not winning. And you're the one that's paying him $400 million.
Yep. There you go. There's your issue because they can't put nobody else around him.
We did it one time. It was you could have like 7 or 8 starting Braves players.
Of the 8 Braves starters, position players, not non-pitcher, right? You follow me?
Right.
For the same price as Trout this year, you could have 7 of the 8. So one guy you have to cut, but you get 7. So as a Braves fan, would you trade 7 of your starters to pay Mike Trout? And so when you say, is somebody worth something, is that not how the best way to do that? Was that
you essentially
would I pay for Mike Trout?
I could be like, do you want Acuna, Albies, or Freeman, Freeman, or do you want Mike Trout?
Now remember, you could have .22 more WAR this year.
That's right.
If you trade those 7 for that one guy.
There's no way. Yeah. You know why? Because as a fan, I want championships.
Well,
I don't want MVPs.
The Cowboys are in this situation right now. Do you pay your quarterback $35 million, or do you pay your defense $35 million?
That's right.
I mean, we've seen this over. The Seahawks have been trying to get rid of Russ Wilson ever since they gave him the contract. They already got his super. The Eagles actually did the smartest thing. They got their Super Bowl out of a cheap guy, got rid of him. They still got their expensive guy. You can get rid of him soon if you really wanted to. You drafted Jalen Hurts.
That's why you got
that
second round pick.
So that's why you took Jalen Hurts. That's exactly right.
As soon as they give him these contracts, you're like, ugh, might not have should have done that because my defense can't stop nobody.
Yeah.
The only one that looks like might pay off could be Mahomes.
Yeah.
But even that's going to be cutting it.
Yeah, I think you're still going to get down the road 2-3 years.
They might have only get one out of that. What if we get down the road and Kansas City only got one out of that team? A lot of times, the Rams, the greatest show on turf, we thought they made 3 Super Bowls, only won one of them. I mean,
that's true.
As crazy as it sounds, I still have them taking it home this year.
Well, we all thought that about the Rams for years.
I know.
And then the Titans held them to 9 points.
This is different.
Or no, they held the Titans to 9
I'm gonna be honest. This is a different beast. This might be the greatest show on. This might be the greatest show on grass. Kansas City. It might be the greatest show on grass. I don't know, man. It's just tough when it comes to baseball because you go from growing up and them telling you this is what we're looking on, this is what we're going to focus on, and you know you go to the ballpark when you're young and you're focusing on how you played that day, basically, especially on the offensive side of the ball. What did you go at the plate? Did you go maybe 1 for 3 with a walk?
Right.
Did you go 2 for 3? Because the worst thing to do is to go 0 for and get in the truck with your dad when the game is over and explain to him why you looked at a third strike not swinging.
3 times.
And now,
people
3 times. And now it's like, oh, it's okay, son. You don't have to swing on that if you don't want to.
To me, Rob, the worst thing ever is the strikeout. And people will say,
it's nothing.
Hitting into a double play is worse than striking out. So you're telling me that swinging the bat, putting it in play, and it's not my fault the guy on first is too slow to either steal second or get there in time or break up the double play is better. For the team, I should watch 3 strikes go by.
It's all about contact. It's got to be about contact.
Everything to me as a hitter has always been about contact. So
what's
when you
the name of the game?
When you
hit the ball with the bat.
When you do the WAR, Rob, let's say, for example, Trout bats in front of Pujols. Well, Pujols may be the smartest, best right-handed hitter we've ever seen. If Trout gets a double, Pujols is just as happy to hit a fly ball to right field and get out as he is ground ball or if it, on an 0-2 count. And that's what the statisticians, the nerds who've never played the game, they never take into consideration situational hitting. That WAR stat does not take into consideration situational hitting. Pujols, I guarantee you, as a hitter, has gotten out on purpose before with runners on base. If there's a runner on third, Rob, do you not push everything you can to right field?
And I wish they would have kept him for 100 years. Gabe Kapler and that's why he was atrocious in Philadelphia, and he still gets another job when he leaves Philly because that's all he thought about. You get so deep in the weeds with those stats, and like you said, instead of focusing at like you said, situational hitting. Mm-hmm. Well, let me get out my card here and see Yeah, it would be better to have him strike out than. And like you said, there's no.
They're trying to do it in football too.
How can you say striking out's better than a double play?
That's right.
They're trying to make football.
It's not my fault the guy got doubled up.
They're trying to make it too complicated in football too. They bring up QBR. QBR takes into consideration so many different things. Did he throw into double coverage? Did he miss the guy that was wide open? And I'm like, whatever happened to looking at the completion percentage? Did he get first downs? And did he throw interceptions? Did he throw your touchdown to interception ratio?
Am I winning games with this guy under center?
Am I winning games? Absolutely. And if he runs, is it for a first down? So how many yards? Is he getting good yards?
So talk about situational hitting. I'll use from my experience at Bessemer. I either batted in the 2 or the 6 hole. Those are two completely different places to bat in our lineup based on what I could do as a hitter. If I'm in the 2 hole, Rob, I've got 3 studs behind me that can hammer the ball. So when I get on first, I got to think of 2 things. The fat boy behind me, if he hits it on the ground, he's getting doubled up. I got to steal second. The guy behind him could fly. If he pops up, I don't have to steal second with him on because he's going to beat out the double play ball if he accidentally hits one. That's 2 totally different mentalities over on who's batting behind me. What about in front of me? So if I'm batting in the 2 hole and the leadoff hitter gets on, 90% of the time around here, what am I doing? Bunting.
On a bunt.
Okay? If the leadoff hitter doesn't get on, now I've got one out. I've got to get on if the leadoff hitter's on, either I'm going to bunt or I'm hitting the ball to try to get him to score.
Move him over.
If he doesn't get on, guess what my job is now to do? I might have to walk. I might have to get on base because the 3 guys behind me have to knock me in. So in the 2 hole with 1 out, I'm going to take way more pitches and maybe even hope for a walk just so I can get on base for those guys behind me.
The easy to me and the easiest concept for baseball that you use is get them on, get them around, get them in. That's the whole purpose of those guys in your lineup. Like you said, if that leadoff man gets on, then whatever I need to do to get him to second, because like you said, now I got my bats coming up behind.
So every time when I batted in the 6 hole, I didn't have any bats behind me, so I had to steal second base no matter what, because I needed the extra base because the guy behind me might strike out.
Get around.
So if Trout's batting in the 3 hole with Pujols behind him, and they say, well, everybody gets the same RBI percentage no matter where they bat, then why the hell is Pujols always batted behind him?
That's right.
Maybe because he's a freaking genius hitter. Maybe because he's a great situational hitter. Because, again, like I said, in the 6th hole, I was doing totally different things trying to get on base and score as opposed to not getting on base. If I'm in the 6th hole also, Rob, who's batting in front of me? Probably the 5 best hitters on the team. Someone was usually on base. So if there's a runner on first, I'm going to try to do something different as opposed to a runner on third. If there's a runner on third, I don't mind hitting a chopper to second base. He's going to score.
That's right.
But if there's a runner on first, I don't want to hit one to second base. It's the situational hitting is not taken into account by any of the nerds, obviously, because they've never had to play and they don't know anything about the situation.
Right.
So that stuff it just gets a little weird to me, and I guess you've watched plenty of baseball teams. I mean, Ricky Henderson's the greatest, maybe leadoff hitter ever. But how many people's going to take him over Barry Bonds in left field when you're putting your team together?
Right.
Ricky can get on base. Do you want Rob? Okay. Do you want Ricky, Ichiro, and Tony Gwynn in your outfield, or do you want Bonds, Griffey, and Hank Aaron? That's the kind of the argument. Do you want the 3 guys that are going to get on the base, or do you want the 3 guys that are going to knock it off the wall?
I used to have a stat, and I can't remember it now. And it was a ridiculous number of the amount of times Ricky Henderson scored from first base with a ball hit in the infield.
Stupid.
Scored from first base with a ball hit in the infield. So, you start – and plus with a guy like Ricky Henderson, he's going to come up and he's going to be very aggressive to start that at bat because there's a chance he's going to put one out.
Ricky did try to hit home runs.
He was going to be –
fastest guy on the team.
Once he got that counted, once it got to a
Major
bad
League
count, though.
Yeah.
Of which one? Say Hey Willie Mays. He tried to hit it out. That was Ricky Henderson, but real life.
Yep, it sure was.
I mean, Rob, he stole third base. They gave him a microphone and he said, "I'm the greatest." when he broke the record, he stole third to break the record and said, "I'm the greatest."
One of the greatest books, if you ever want to read a great book, is Confessions of a Thief by Ricky Henderson. Is an outstanding read.
There's no way he wrote any of that down. Someone else had to write every word down. Yeah. Because Ricky talked in first person or third person, Hunter.
He did.
How fun would that be today? Think about if we went on TV every day and this dude's on TV talking about Ricky this, Ricky this.
Yep.
Ricky's the greatest. He talked in third person. You can't stop Ricky. You seen the Seinfeld, hadn't you, with Jimmy?
Yeah.
You seen that? That's Ricky.
That's Ricky Henderson. That's Ricky Henderson.
All right, real quick before we move on and finish up the show. Your all-time on-base percentage, Joey Votto is 17th all-time between Shoeless Joe Jackson and Mickey Mantle. So let me as for posterity's sake, for Ted Williams is 1, Ruth 2, McGraw 3, Billy Hamilton 4, Lou Gehrig 5, Barry Bonds 6, Hornsby 8, Bill Joyce 7, Ty Cobb 9, Jimmy Fox 10. Those are your all-time on-base percentages. Rob, did you know if your team could get, me and you could play it against each other, you could get 4 batters on every inning without scoring a run. That would be 36 base runners, and you not score a run. I could have 26 strikeouts and a solo home run and win the game. So don't talk to me about on-base percentage.
That's right.
When your on-base percentage could be 120%,
Yep.
and I could still win. Well, my on-base percentage is 0.3%,
Yep.
6%, whatever the math is.
That's right.
That stuff don't matter at all, on-base percentage.
Whatever happened,
All right.
just basic wins and losses.
Say that's it.
All right, NASCAR yesterday was in Atlanta. Turned into, I ain't gonna say a boring race. It
Turned
was
out to be the Kevin Harvick show.
Yeah,
It was. I know it was too much for Bubba Wallace. That's all I know.
that he got hot for him. Well, I didn't think about it. They usually do that race in March or April, and at Atlanta in June. That's why I started
It's
looking
hot.
at the TV, and I was like, because I was thinking about how hot it was at my house.
Oh, it was damn hot.
And then I
here.
said, "Oh crap, they're in Atlanta and it's June."
They're in Atlanta, and all they're doing is sitting on blacktop.
It's
Yep.
gotta
That's
be
it.
hot.
At that point, I said, just turn the sprinkler system on.
So-
Please. I know we don't want water, but please.
Can we
please.
put air in these things now?
So Atlanta, yeah, I know, right? They were talking about. You see the segment they did on Harvick's air because they got to have the hose pointed at him, and he was drying his hands from sweating. The thing about Atlanta is it's the easiest track, kind of not to wreck at. Like it's so you're not going to see a lot of cautions unless it's jumbled up or things happen. The big story this weekend obviously was tire wear. They were just eating up the tires. They kept mentioning cheese grater and Clint Boyer's. They had to set up to the back rear tire, and it ate up his tires every 40 laps.
See, that's another question. We're talking about equipment dealing with baseball. Why is it 1 year, unless they just keep screwing around with the tire composites? 1 year the tire's great. We come back next year. Well, they've messed around with the tire a little bit. Now we're chewing the tire up. Just leave things alone.
They can't. Then it gets boring.
The tire stuff is the most important thing in NASCAR, but it's also the most, like you just said, it's hard to understand how it all works. Tom was in here the other day talking about it. They talk about tires too much, and I'm like, it's the most important thing. It really is, and you're right that how are they not prepared after all these years of knowing exactly?
You think we should advance so far, scientifically,
right?
Where they should know exactly how
Between
this tire.
last year and this year, they should have done some type of testing.
Absolutely.
To where that tire doesn't rip. Does Goodyear not own a NASCAR that they can take to every track? And I don't know. That's stuff for us to wonder about. But yesterday's race turned into a crew chief race as opposed to a driver race because there was a ton of green flag stops. So when do I come in? Do I come in early? Do I come in late? Do I want to be on fresh tires? They even mentioned one time, Hunter, they had a caution. Everyone got fresh tires, and a guy wrecked like four laps later, but they didn't throw a caution. And Larry McReynolds was on there. He said, "Oh, they would come get more tires after 4 laps. They'd come get them again." Is how bad the tires were getting heat up. So it ended up turning into a crew chief race. Ronnie Childers is outstanding crew chief for Harvick.
yeah.
They've got Atlanta down, and they ended up prevailing there. I was pulling hard. Jimmy finally worked his way up about 5th or 6th there late, but they didn't get the caution. The last 40 laps, you need that caution to bunch them up, give them a chance for something to happen. And we've seen it seems like race after race after race, in the last 20 laps, the leader gets wrecked.
Well,
No,
the
leader's been getting wrecked.
last 2 races, yeah. This one though, it was just like it was the Charlotte race.
And that's where I think NASCAR has started to hurt itself because we are seeing so many times where it does become crew chief instead of talent driven, the driver driven. It's okay. The crew chief make the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget when they went to restrictor plates, and it makes me think because Chase Elliott there in the top. Bill Elliott talked about that. He said the worst thing they're doing is putting these restrictor plates on these cars. He said, if I'm man enough to keep my foot in it, and I'm going into that curve at 250 miles per hour, then I'm man enough to do it. He said, allow crews to work and allow drivers to work, because that's when you start finding out who the real drivers are.
Right.
And I think we've gotten to so many tracks now.
I can tell you 3 right now that would have just put their foot to the middle the whole time. But Denny Hamlin would have been Kyle Busch, and Kevin Harvick would have just kept their foot on it.
Yep. You know,
that promotes the aggressive driver.
Yep. You look at those guys; they could have raced 25 years ago with Dale and Rusty Wallace and Darrell Waltrip, and you go back and look at Harry Gant and those guys. They just raced different. And at the end of the day, you knew who the best driver was. Maybe it wasn't about the best crew. Maybe it wasn't about the best crew chief. And even towards the end of Dale Sr.'s run, you started seeing that crew chief dynamic come into play even for him.
I think one of the biggest things you talk about, you're kind of leaning into the equipment thing, not necessarily with the crew chiefs. When we talked a little bit with Jesse, is one thing it's hard for non-NASCAR fans to understand is when and Bubba Wallace had to quit a race a few weeks back because a piece of equipment broke that they didn't have replacement parts for. And they're like, well, our team's got better equipment or this team's got better equipment. And for NASCAR, for fans, they're like, I don't understand. Like, do y'all not shop at the same store? and that's it.
Going down to S&R Motorsports.
Right. Even as a fan, a fan as I am, I still don't get some of it. I still don't see how Bubba Wallace and they're all supposed to be driving Chevys. Why is Chevy not making sure that they have all the parts and stuff they need? Now I understand, if this team's spending money on wind tunnels and whatever, that gives you whatever advantage it does. But I mean, if they're not making, how are they can't make that much of a difference in that to me, as opposed to, if we're here on race day and I'm looking over at your car and it's just slightly lower than mine, hey, I'll lower my car a little bit, but the equipment thing really perplexes and aggravates fans. I think I understand the difference between Ford and Toyota, but the Chevy teams, like, why are you all different? Like, why is Bubba Wallace and Richard Petty not like, it's almost like if you're playing a video game like the NBA 2K, you'll go, you got a nice store and then you got other stores. So only these guys get to shop at the nice store and these guys get to shop at the other ones. And it's just weird for people that don't understand it. Are the guys running it like, is Bubba Wallace shopping at O'Reilly Auto Parts over here and the other guys are, whatever they're doing, Chevy's giving them great stuff. And people don't understand that at all. I don't, for the most part. Fastest speed ever, 216 in Talladega. Rusty Wallace, 2004, 216.3 miles per hour. You was talking about Bill Elliott. I wanted to find him. Okay, I thought he held the record for a while. Elliott's from 87. He held it for 17 years. In 1987, he went 212, Rob, around Talladega. It was not. It said it does not replace the official record because it was a radio test, not a NASCAR sanctioned event. Is Bill Elliott was testing at 212. So there you go. And those guys make the argument, like you just said. Let me drive. Let me drive it. So all right. So that sets up this Wednesday, and one of the best quotes of Sunday's race was from Larry McReynolds. He said that Wednesday they're going to Martinsville, and it's going to be. And one of them said, "Well, it's going to be under the lights in Martinsville." Can you guys believe that? And Larry McReynolds said, "Hell has frozen over, boys." So they never thought they'd see lights in Martinsville is what they're getting at with that, but they will. They've got the lights in Martinsville. That is a track. It's called the Paperclip. I'm going to pull it up on the screen for the folks in a minute. I'm going to make some laps here around the track, but it's shaped like a paperclip. The best way to describe it is it's a damn paperclip.
Long straightaways and short turns.
It's to drive it. I was driving in traffic earlier with it. The thing about it, and people also don't get, Rob, is they think they're, because when you drive in your car, 90% of the time, your foot's always on the gas. You're going speeds that aren't that fast, right? They don't understand that, say, a lot of NASCAR wins is by braking.
That's right.
Who's willing, what you were just said about driving, who's willing to go into that corner at a certain speed before the last person to hit the brakes? And that's the guy that's going to win. Whoever's willing to risk their car, A, their body, and B, hope that it makes the turn. Now, a lot of these turns at Martinsville and some of these other ones, they let off the gas. And they'll go all the way around the corner without touching the ground.
Yeah, they coast through it.
Because there's so much horsepower and these tires are so slick. Hunter walked in when I was trying to calibrate. I was on the pro level here, Rob, and every time the green flag went, I just spun. I was going, and then I'd hit the wheel a little bit, and I'd spin out because I was hitting the gas too hard into the corner, and I would spin out. So I had to put on rookie level just to make it around the dang track. But it is so fast in those wheels. If you've never driven a V8, you really don't know. I had a Firebird in high school. It was a V6. Mom and Dad bought a Z28. Completely different. I can't even describe how I could get maybe a 10-foot burn, maybe 10-foot burn on my V6. And this was a automatic Z28. I lay it down 100 foot. I'm just telling you, you can lay it down. And these guys are driving these, and they're a little bit they're better V8s than what I was driving, and it's just something different. And there's so much power in the back that they have trouble with that. So Wednesday I'll be in Martinsville, and the way they're doing, Hunter, they're doing the standings is how they're doing the starts and the draw again. Mm-hmm. So Jimmy Johnson needed to finish third, and he finished I think 5th or 6th. If he had finished third, he'd have gotten the top part of the drawing at Martinsville. Now he's back in the back of the pack. So. He's got a tough little draw.
Not the final
there.
season he was looking for.
Not at all. But it's not as bad as honestly as it was last year or the year
That's
before.
True.
It's been over 100 races since he's won, and we talked about this a few weeks ago on one of our podcasts. If you'd have told me 3 years ago, he'd still have the same number of wins right now. This is insane. I thought he would have passed Jeff Gordon by now. He's still 10 wins behind him. He ain't gonna get to Jeff Gordon.
Yeah, he ain't gonna catch him.
I thought he would have blew by Jeff. I thought he would have been the one to go after Pearson's 105. I thought that's where we were at. It was that he was going to get there. And then Chevy, whatever they did the last 3 or 4 years, was absolute garbage. And it put him in a position that he couldn't win. Now, this year, Rob, Hendricks is balling pretty much.
Yeah.
Now, yesterday was a Toyota day. But then again, we talked about that was kind of a crew chief day. Toyotas may have something a little bit different in that sense.
I will say this for NASCAR right now.
Jimmy's going to run 15 to 18 races next year, he said.
Maybe the best group of young talent we've seen in a while.
It's been a while. If you'll remember when Jimmy first started winning, they had those Young Gun commercials.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember all those guys. I think you're right about that. I've been trying to pick a team that my son could pull for. They love Jimmy Johnson. They do, and he's retiring, and they haven't quite got that or understand it. I'm going to be mad if we don't get to go see them in this All-Star race that they've planned for September. I just want my kids to get to go see them once. My daughter I bought her the pink car this year because she's a Jimmy Johnson fan. All we had was these Lowe's cars, and then they switched to Allied. She loved it. She's been on cloud, and she likes the pink car.
That's what's tough whenever you're younger and you didn't get to really watch a driver or a player for nearly as long, and I kind of know how those kids are going to feel and how you're going to feel, though, now that you're looking for something else. That's how I felt when Chipper retired. When Chipper retired, that's all I've known for, basically Braves baseball. And
at least you got to pull for the same team.
I know. I can at least pull for the same team, but even then, I never got behind Freddie. Freddie is who they've tried to kind of groom to be the next Chipper, be the face of the franchise. Now that Acuna is there, though, I love how he plays and I love his swagger. I'm kind of getting behind him, but I know how that is. And it's kind of now, for me, football-wise, it's not – I still root for the same team, even though they've been god-awful. But my favorite quarterback for years has been Peyton.
Right.
And then Peyton walks away. I don't like Aaron Rodgers. I think he's cocky, and I really don't think he's that good.
And that's why I think with NASCAR, that's why I think a lot of longtime fans struggle, not only because of the decisions NASCAR was making, some of the tracks they were leaving, but you had so many fans that were so diehard Dale Earnhardt.
I was say junior, or not junior, senior.
They never had the chance with the way it happened at Daytona. They never had the chance to
Find somebody
celebrate
else.
his career.
Oh, yeah.
Never had the chance for him to do like Jimmy Johnson and knowing, okay, this is Dale Sr.'s last year. We're going to celebrate. And then Dale was the kind of guy where you could have seen him going into the booth, and you could have eased your way out of him towards another driver. And a lot of people tried to go to Dale Earnhardt Jr., and he was obviously voted most popular driver around. I think a lot of that was Dale Sr. fans. Now, Jr. kind of all of a sudden just gone because of the concussions. So those fans of the Earnhardt racing dynasty have never had an opportunity to ease out of being an Earnhardt fan and support another driver. I think for me, the closest thing I see right now, I love Chase Elliott. I think this young man has got all the tools to be very special. You can tell it's in the blood.
Got a problem there, though.
So I like him.
You know what the problem is, don't you?
What's that?
You can't like Chase Elliott. You're an Earnhardt fan.
But you
got You can't like him. That's not. Terry Sarah told him Saturday he was trashing Chase Elliott because here's who Terry pulls for, Rob. He was an Earnhardt fan,
right?
So he switched to Kyle Busch.
No,
that's what Terry did. So now he's on the Kyle Busch bandwagon, and he being an Earnhardt fan, and now Busch and Elliott are getting into it. He don't have anything good to say about the Elliott family. so I was like, I know where that's coming from, Terry. You ain't got nothing for Chase Elliott on that. But Chase Elliott is a Hendricks driver. He's a young guy. He is Bill's son, obviously. He is one of the people I'm leaning towards, maybe pushing the kids towards pulling for themselves as growing. Austin Dillon is in the 3 car. If he was winning, I think they would people would be pulling for him.
I think more than anybody else though, because it's that 3.
Mm-hmm.
If there's ever been a number synonymous with the guy, and I understand why they did it, why Austin Dillon's driving the 3, but I think there's still a lot of people that still feels like if there was
you could say the same with 3, 43, and 24, and now 48 when Jimmy walks away.
You know, for me, if there was ever a number where the NASCAR fans said we need to put this number, it needs to be hanging up at tracks and not on the car, was that 3. And I know Dale Jr. came out and said, he deserves it, this and that, but I think that it's hard for me to pull for Austin Dillon in the 3 car. It's hard for me as an Earnhardt fan.
So the standings right now, Jimmy ended up 13th, top 12, get in the top 12. Harvick 1, Logano 2, Chase 3, Brad Keselowski 4, Truex 5, Denny Hamlin 6, Blaney 7, Bowman 8, Busch 9 and 10, Almirola 11, Bowyer 12th, and Jimmy Johnson, then Austin Dillon at 13 and 14. I think Jimmy's going to win this year. This weekend might be one of them. It's one of his good tracks. He's good here. He's good at Dover. He's already had some bad luck this year. He's ran well.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about Johnson is he's never been one to race aggressively enough to maybe get that extra spot. Like, he's not going to race you for an extra spot
right
on the track. He'll race you for the win, but 6 and 7, he's not going to wreck a car or wreck someone like maybe Kyle Busch or one of these other guys would finish at a certain spot in the track. So his aggressiveness without having a great car, I don't think they can win that way. He's got to have a good car, and they have had some. Let's go. So Wednesday, like I said, we'll be in Martinsville. That'll be your top 12. It'll be random draw for that, folks. So no big, nothing really to gain or get from that. One thing I did notice, Rob, I don't know if playing the game, I noticed it a lot, and it is a big issue. Is they had some speeding penalties yesterday on the first time people come in because they hadn't had practice, and you're coming in the pits on slick tires.
Mm-hmm.
And you basically just playing the game. I will lose 2 or 3 spots because I don't know when to brake and how to brake coming in to get in the pits at the right time. So for me, I love to wait for the caution flag to come out.
I've always wondered that when NASCAR. That is one of my questions. Why is there not a speedometer? Why is it based on RPMs? Why not give them something to look at?
I don't know why, other than them being jackasses. But yeah, there's always been a thing. They don't want to put electrical components in the cars. But you're right. It would solve a lot of problems if they just had a speedometer in there. It's not like that's ancient. That's like brand new technology. It would help. What they do is they do timing. It's not even miles per hour. It's time. You can go 100 miles per hour as long as the last part of your of that timing loop, you're going 10 miles per hour.
That's exactly right.
So it's an average distance between. So it's basically a second and a half or 2 seconds per timing loop, and that's how they get you for speed. And it's obviously hard as crap.
Absolutely.
When you're coming down just RPMs, if you just slam on brakes, you have no idea how fast you're going.
Yep.
So the practice does. That's what that does. So that kind of caught my eye. Like that's kind of something to look out for in these few weeks when they don't have practices. Some of these guys are going to mess up. I can't. I like I said, I lose 2, 3, 4, 5 spots trying to hit the damn. And then in the pits, and then on the game and in real life, if you hit the pit speeding during green, you know what the penalty is? It's a drive-through. So if you hit it and you're speeding, you have to just drive through, and everybody else is going 150 miles per hour, and you're going 35. So that right there it's one of the issues of my game I can't stand. So look, going down my list, we've done this, we've done this, we've done this, and this. Hunter, did we talk NBA?
Yeah, no, we can just talk about it Wednesday.
Real quick, I want to get in, let Rob have a few comments on that, and then finish up with a Mount Rushmore though. Rob, do you like, dislike, agree, disagree? I'll say my stance on it is I think the NBA should have either done 16 or 30 teams. This choosing some teams in, some teams out, because, and the major thing is they've got to play, but some of those teams were scheduled to play those crappy teams. If you're the Hornets what if you're the Hornets and you missed by a game and a half and they cut you off? What if your last 20 games were against all Eastern Conference teams as opposed to Western Conference teams? You're going to win more games against the East than the West. And I to me, that's what we said. Either you got to just cut off the 16. Hey guys, if you ain't there now, sorry.
But here's
or the 30. I thought it should be everybody.
That's the thing. You either the 16 or everybody, but you also know there's no way they were going to get this NBA back on TV, and Zion Williamson was not going to be seen.
That's Hunter's theory on it.
And it's true. The only reason I think you could think otherwise, you need another young player that needs eyes on him, and that's Trae Young.
His team's too bad.
And they're a bad team.
No, they got exactly what they want to.
Well, that's true.
Because think about it, they got Zion and Ja Morant.
Well, that's
both
true.
in it.
That's true.
That's all they need. That's all they need.
True.
Because one of those two has the possibility of being a part of the playoffs in their first season.
Real quick before we finish that up, I've left one NASCAR thing off. They're not going to have fans in Pocono, Indianapolis, Kentucky. Charlotte, Texas, Kansas, and New Hampshire are still working on it. It says, Hunter, your All-Star weekend is July 15th now. The All-Star Open is July 15th. The All-Star Race is July 15th. That is a Wednesday night.
Wow.
Is the All-Star Race will be a Wednesday night in Charlotte. So we'll have, of course, coverage here on WCSL, but hopefully fans. I mean, I'd really want the fans to be there. All right, back to the NBA thing on that. Like, I don't think it's fair schedule-wise, and also, like, how are they going to do these last 8 games? Who do the teams play to get in the playoffs? They play each other. Like, if you're on the outside and you get Lakers, Clippers, and Bucks on your 8-game schedule, well, that's not fair if the other teams have to play the crappy teams. Right. So how are they doing the scheduling? I know that's not up for us to decide, but my main question was, do you like the 22, or would you rather see all 16 or all 30?
Either 16. I'm like you, 16 or 30. I mean, that's
just
to
weird
me,
picking.
It's like I said, kind of cherry picking there, and they're justifying however they want to justify it. But again, there's players out there that they definitely wanted to have on TV because they bring ratings, so they weren't going to mess up those. I tell you what got me, guys, and to me it goes back to the Last Dance 10-part series. The difference between a guy like Kevin Durant and Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan would not have stayed in Los Angeles whenever he found out the league was coming back. Kevin Durant is, I believe, to me, everything you hear, could be healthy enough to go to help the Brooklyn get somewhere, and he's not going to play.
Yeah, he said yesterday.
Jordan would never have made that announcement.
He would have probably played.
He would have played.
And on the Jordan topic, and that's things we talk about all the time. You know, the Kobe, the winning mentality. People don't quite get. LeBron's happy losing as long as everybody's his friend. Mm-hmm. Like that would have never. Michael didn't care about that. And that's one thing that, you know, LeBron's from the generation. Rob, you know it, that everybody gets a trophy.
Gets a trophy.
Everybody's a winner. We all played. How many times have you ever took? No matter it's as long as we have fun playing the game, and that's kind of what that.
And I know I wasn't on here. I know you guys have talked
George's
about
not
The
here to
Last
have fun.
Dance. You forget watching a Karl Malone. He was a killer. Reggie Miller was a killer. And like you said, I just don't. There's not many guys in the league now with that killer mentality. Like you said, okay, if I win, great, but I'm not going to sacrifice it at
Our friendship.
Yeah, at the altar of friendship, because I want to make sure I keep all those in place. Those guys back then, that wasn't the key. The key was all about what we talked about, W and L's at the end of the day.
Do you think you could name 4 players from the 90s? I'm talking any 4 players. Just any of them that would be caught dead alive on a banana boat together.
Nope.
I'm just talking bench warmers. Anybody? Not even not the leader. Not Jordan. Not Clyde Drexler. Any of them. Can you think of any, like even 4 Pistons?
No.
Together or 4 Lakers? Could you see Kareem, Magic, James Worthy, and Byron Scott riding a banana boat?
Bill Laimbeer and Joe Dumars.
The banana boat. That one gets me. Also, Rob, I'll get your opinion on this later. I gave a good argument. I don't know how Hunter thinks it's good or not about how Ginobili is a better small forward than LeBron career wise.
Ooh.
I'll give you that one in a minute. All right, NBA return. Like I said, do you got a favorite right now?
I'm amazed by that Toronto team.
We talked about that a little bit Saturday. You weren't here Saturday. We talked about it a little bit that Saturday about them.
How they have kept it together, even with the losses, and they've had guys.
They lost Danny Green and the MVP, and they're still second in the East.
And they've dealt with the injury. You know, you turn around, they've had a guy hurt here, and they
Kyle Lowry's so underrated. He keeps winning.
Yeah, they just keep ticking along. So
Kyle Lowry plays point guard like a point guard used to play. And used to, he plays John Stockton point guard to where he leads his team in a certain way. There's a style of playing point guard. You can go out there and score like Russell Westbrook, or you can go out there and facilitate and make sure your team win. I've played in games where we've won I had 8 points. I've played in games where I had 25 points. To me, the point guard has to be versatile in that.
That's right.
As long as I think you could look at, or I always used to think you should look at point guard wins and losses in that way because he's run the offense in that way.
And here's going to be a big issue for me, guys, with going to Orlando. And we talk about how schedules and things like that, who you play. To me, there's a big issue, too, about when you look at what would have been, where you would have played. When you look at a city like Utah, Oklahoma City, Denver, not major markets, but distinct home court advantages because it has a similar college kind of feel. Now you're going to be in this empty arena down in Florida. The fans won't be there. To me, that favors major market teams where people are there for the wine and cheese. And
Hunter, you think the comebacks will be as furious or as exciting with no fans? Like, will teams be able to even make a run? Will you be able to make a 15-point run without the crowd behind you pumping? How about this? What about the timeouts after runs? Will coaches take less of them?
Look,
like if you go on a 6-0 run and the crowd starts pumping,
look for your top 4
a lot of coaches go
to be the
timeout.
ones that are there at the end. This is going to look a lot like a college basketball run. Most of the time, it's your teams, the top 4. You might have one Cinderella, but I don't think it's going to happen right now. Not this year.
I'm picking Clippers. I picked Clippers and Bucks Saturday. Terry went Clippers and Celtics.
Imagine.
That surprised you. Tom left after when we were picking. Where you two guys sitting on right now?
I got the Clippers. I don't know about the East. I would take the Celtics. I think they're deeper.
I like the Celtics out of the East. I do. And
I'm not sold on anybody in the East.
And
I was going to say, I don't care who I pick out of the East, though. I got the Clippers are going to win it.
I still probably take the Lakers out of the West. I'd love to see Celtics Lakers. I think that'd be an outstanding matchup.
Man, we've never seen that before.
Yeah, that's never happened.
We've never watched Celtics Lakers before. All right, Rob, let's finish this up. First of all, I want to show you that one, Hunter. That is Maine football's calendar this year. Maine football's. Crap. That's a chart. Where'd he go? Oh, there he is. He's over here.
Hey, right quick, some good news out of North Carolina. The Athletic Association has allowed the. That's awesome.
I was trying to get my camera to see if he won't read
it. The dead period is going to end Monday. So high school athletics can begin practicing on Monday. So that's a good sign, but it's going to be limited. I understand football-wise, only have 10 kids in the weight room at a time, 25 kids out on the field. So Going to be a lot of scheduling and moving around.
I know a way to
for
get
that.
around all that.
What's that?
Call it a protest. I have guidelines from San Francisco, the county San Francisco's in. Groups can get together in groups of 12 or less. That's rule 1. You know what rule 2 is?
What's that?
Protesters can accumulate or assimilate in groups of 100 or less. Now, Rob,
Interesting world we live in.
I'm not a scientist. I'm not a mathematician. But some of that don't just add up, does it? So like we said Saturday, if you're doing a church or doing a baseball league or doing whatever, just say you're protesting the governor's decision by playing baseball or by practicing. Because if you're going to say, and the governor himself marched down the streets of Raleigh.
He did.
With tons and tons of people. That was more than 12 people. So, listen, my son's Optimus, Dixie's, whatever league is not playing this year. And people are doing what they're doing. We have to distance whatever, and my son can't play baseball. There's travel baseball teams playing in the state of North Carolina right now. I know it. Tom's been umpiring it. They were at a field this weekend, and I'm glad you're here, Rob. They was at a field this weekend near my house. I'm not going to say where or name the field. That they were playing travel baseball and softball, Hunter. These fields are so bad. When I was little, we would refuse to practice on them. And these travel teams are paying hundreds of dollars to play on these crappy fields. And one thing I thought about you yesterday, Rob, after looking at the hundreds and hundreds of people out at this sports complex, in the middle of it was a giant Winnebago, drivable Winnebago, right? It was wrapped. Okay? It was wrapped in Philadelphia Eagles.
There you go.
And on the very front of it at the top, Hunter, it said, "Fly, Eagles, fly."
Sweet.
This is at a travel baseball game. I'm hoping to God these people are from Charlotte, around the area, because if they come from Pennsylvania to play at this field that I'm talking about, they got robbed.
There you go. Die hard, baby.
They got robbed.
Die hard.
Boy, that's a dump that they ended up playing at, and these fools are driving around it. Now that was a sweet ride. All right, let's finish up the show with my last Mt Rushmore of the day. Rob, I want the Crest Chargers football Mt Rushmore.
Oh my gosh.
Ooh.
Man.
The Crest Chargers football. Not all sports, no David Thompson, but football Mount Rushmore.
Oh, man.
Is Brandon Spikes on it?
It'd be considered.
But not as off-fielder or his opinion of Shelby, but Brandon Spikes is an NFL football player.
I think so.
Jonathan Bullard.
I think he was a difference maker. I think you got to look at guys, too, that changed the program like a Tim Ramsey.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'd have to have a guy like that on there. I think he'd have to be one of the four. And then I think you got to go back and look at like a Herbert Harbison. You know, you talk about those early 80s, and that's when you started seeing a program become what Crest was able to become and saw the potential there before they went up to 4A. So I think Herbert Harbison's there. I think you put Spikes on it. I think I'd put Timmy Ramsor there.
What about Trey Harbison? What about Justin Foster? Landon Zanders? Too early to call on those?
Yeah, I think those guys are still too young.
Honestly, of all the people I've seen come from Crest that I've been doing the games the last 10 years, Justin Foster impressed me more than anybody.
He's on the watch list for one of the defensive players of the year this year.
He's a huge man, and he's extremely nice. He's nothing but yes sir, no sir to me, and he's a much bigger man than I ever will be.
If there's ever been anybody for Crest that I've watched just keep their nose to the grindstone and work and get to where he was, it's Justin Foster, without a doubt. You talk about players. Do you include a coach?
No, I'll just do players.
Oh, golly.
Justin's listed at 6'2", 265. He seems taller than that, but he's listed at 6'2", 265. He reminds me of Peppers. He's obviously not even that big. Think about how big Justin is, and Peppers is 4 inches taller and 30 more pounds.
Right. Right.
God. So Foster's listed at 6'2", 260. Chaz is 6'3", 230. He's got 30-some pounds on Chaz. He's more of a defensive end. He looks like a defensive end or a linebacker to me. I mean, he's just so big. So he's shaped like Pepper's kind of, but he's like I said, he's not that quite big. So who you going with?
Who have I got on there so far?
Well, you've named Ramsor, Spikes, Bullard, Herbert Harbison. Then we've named, of course, Justin Foster, Landon Zanders, and a couple of others throughout the years.
I think Harbison definitely, Spikes definitely, Timmy Ramsor definitely.
Does Bullard get the fourth one?
I don't know if his impact is he was a great player, but when I start talking,
was his teams not that good? Is that what you're saying?
No, the teams were good.
Yeah.
But I also think with those teams, do I include a Raheem Ledbetter? And you start talking about guys that did things that for a team, and then I think about two running backs. Does Travis Padgett make it or Martre Littlejohn? You're talking about two guys that rushed for 2,500 yards apiece.
Harbison had 7 touchdowns in a state championship game.
Golly. I guess the best way to say it is, man, we should have been blessed with some players.
Well, Hunter, every time we end up doing one, we always name 3, and the fourth one's always the hardest,
Just
right?
gotta spit somebody out.
You got to do whatever your heart is, man.
It's yours, so whatever
Yeah.
4 you want. I don't have any input on a Crest Mount Rushmore.
P.J. Watkins.
I always think about a guy named Lucky Hopper,
Hey,
but
Willie Green never lost a game
That's
and
true.
won a state championship.
that's true. Put Trey Harbison on there.
Trey got 2 Harbisons.
Yeah.
2 Harbisons, Spikes, and Ramsor, according to Rob
Then you got
Ruppe.
Chris Coleman.
So you got to kick off Bullard. You got to kick off Foster. Are these on our pass list?
Take off Herbert Harbison and put John on there. We'll do Jonathan Bullard there.
All right. There we go. So we got Rob's. Ramsor, Spikes, Trey Harbison, and Jonathan Bullard,
yeah.
is what Rob goes with. All right, Hunter, to end the show, tweet of the day. You ready for this one?
Yep.
James Harden got his number
I
retired.
saw this. Yes.
He did. You ready for where at, Rob?
Where's that?
At a strip club. After spending $1 million. James Harden had his number and jersey retired at a strip joint after spending $1 million.
We talked about Charlotte raining dollar bills.
All right, Hunter, you got anything else before we get out of here?
Nope.
That's all you got.
That's mic drop on that.
We're gonna mic drop with the strip joint. James Harden getting his number retired at the strip club. I want to thank everybody for watching and listening today to this podcast. And Rob Ruppe for joining us.
Hey, I loved it. Had a great time.
Rob, you can come back anytime you want. Mondays,
Appreciate it,
Wednesdays at 2 o'clock, Saturdays at 8 a.m. For Sports Talk. If you come Saturday, we'll order you some breakfast.
Hey.
So thank everybody for watching and listening to Shock Jock Sports Talk on KBCBroadcasting.com.